to trust in the Lord. So get ready to trust.
Welcome everybody to the Trust in the Lord Hour. I'm your host, James David, trusting in the Lord for the past 40 years, perhaps longer, but teaching consecutively, contiguously, without fail, over the past 13 years, and we'll try to figure out exactly when we're into the 14th year. How's everybody doing? Today is day 45 of the writing of Proverbs chapter 3, verse 7 through 13, where all of it got started 13 years ago. With Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thine own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Okay, so I forgot to tell today's message is a message to the elect and the righteous. And we'll try to figure out whether those two are synonymous, but most assuredly to the elect and most emphatically to the righteous. And there are a couple of things I want to say. If you'll allow me, please, to back up just a little bit, because I want to go over some of the things that we taught in a lesson earlier regarding favor and understanding racial harmony. And I want to go back to looking just a little bit at some of the empirical evidence about the elect, and perhaps some empirical evidence about some of the teachings that we've been doing of late. And by that, I mean, one of the hallmarks of the ministry that we have here is that we have at least aligned ourselves with the prophet of the great rain and the great flood, Noah. The Bible says that Noah was a preacher of righteousness in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5. And it says, and so we've aligned ourselves with that, Noah. So just think for just a second now, as I got a great message, an important message, I don't know, great, but I've got an important message if you're a member of the elect, or if you're a member of the righteous, or if you're desirous of being a member of the elect or the righteous. Hold tight. But let me do some background work here to try to validate some things that are coming out of Harlem. The message that are coming out of ATLAH, New York, coming out of ATLAH World Missionary Church up in Harlem, New York, right? And that is that I want to express that I have been preaching righteousness, and quite frankly got it out of the teachings about when the Holy Spirit comes, he will reprove the world of sin and will preach righteousness. And then, of course, Noah was a preacher of righteousness. So righteousness, everybody knows Pastor Manning. And that word righteousness has become synonymous with a whole lot of other things. So Noah was a preacher of righteousness, and he became the father of the world in which we live in now. Not Adam, who Adam first was given the Son of God status, and had he remained faithful, would have been the father of all the world. But God killed off all that group of Adam and Eve people with the great rain and the great flood, and started all over again with Noah. So those of you who listen to me, and I've been talking about my being an elder in the elect, that I will cross over to the 1,000-year reign of peace, that I will survive, that we will survive, I will personally survive the tribulation of the earthquakes, the wars, the rumors of wars, the famines, the pestilences, that I will survive that. And like Noah, start a generation of the righteous and the elect, as outlined in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24. But what Peter has said about Noah, we want to now go back to Genesis chapter 15, verse 6, where God says to Abraham, he's Abram at the time, he's not Abraham, he says to Abram, Abram, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to take your seed into a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a holy land. And it's going to be awesome. And he encouraged Abram to leave his family there in Ur of the Chaldees, which was very prosperous. I mean, it was a combination of Paris, of Rome, of Hollywood, of Beverly Hills, of, all the Hamptons in New York, Palm Beach. leaving the Ur of the Chaldees was like, leaving the Tigris and the Euphrates River was like leaving Palm Beach in Florida, or Beverly Hills in California, or the Italian Riviera in Italy, or the French Riviera in France. But God convinced him, and he left. And he says, I'm going to take you, I'll show you. And so Abraham gets up and hears God. And then later on, God comes to him in Genesis chapter 15, verse 6, and tells him, this is what's going to happen to your people before you enter into this extraordinary promised land. He tells them that they're going to be slaves for 400 years. And the Bible says that Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. And so the engineer will put that up. Abraham believed God. And as a result of that, God said, your belief in the promised land is righteous. So let's put Noah. Now I'm recounting because I got a message. Now hold on, I got a message for the elect and the righteous. So hold on. All right. I'm just trying to lay some background work here as we did the teaching about the favor that God has given. All right. So now both Noah and Abraham were signaled out as righteous. So just out of the blue, since you've been listening to me, I've been a member of this congregation, you've heard me even have a lot of fun with the word righteousness. And David Solomon, whose mother named him Zerek, he picked up on it and began to illuminate it in a song, righteousness. And now I understand his sister Ziva does the same thing. So all the young people know, and they all make fun of me as a preacher, not in a degrading way, but I've promoted righteousness in such a way that it has become indelible and imprinted in the hearts of the young people and old people as well. Righteousness. So let's say for just a second that I'm synonymous with Noah and Abraham. I've spoken righteousness so emphatically and so believably that the Urban Dictionary, as you can see right there, decided that this is something that's incorrect. People are watching our ministry, and I got to find that Chinese newspaper in Beijing and Shanghai that's been writing about us in Beijing and Shanghai. I got to pull it back up again. I'll get it perhaps next time you and I get together, but people are watching what we're doing. And so the writers and people of the contributors to the Urban Dictionary, in addition to the long-legged Mac Daddy and the pinch-nosed Negro, have also suggested righteousness, because I've said it with such emphasis and such belief. I've convinced the people of the Urban Dictionary that it is noteworthy of being in the dictionary. Not the word that I coined, but the way I've emphasized it. So if we can just appreciate the fact that you can say, well, it's all coincidence, Pastor Manning. You're not. God doesn't look upon you the way he did Noah. God doesn't look upon you the way he did Abraham. All right. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. We're not going to fight. We're not going to fall out. We're not going to get attitude with one another. I'm still cool with you. And you don't have to believe me. I'm just asking you to listen to it, right? And it makes for good, it makes for good satire at the very least. If not for absolute truth. Now, if you ask me, I'm telling you because I know it's the absolute stomp down truth that God has, that he has, that I am synonymous with Noah and with Abraham, not just with the righteousness bit, but with the promised land, with the holy city, with the father and elder of the 1,000-year reign of peace. And by the way, I might even be more significant, not that I'm trying to exalt myself, than Abraham or Noah, because I'm going to get 1,000 years. Noah only lived 966 years. I think that's what he lived. I'm going to get 1,000 years. So at any rate, we'll be pretty close on one another. I wanted to be able to express that. And because I want all the members of the ATLAH Church and members of the elect, I want you to think about it for just a second. And of course, you can say, Pastor Man, are you that close? And is God looking at you the same way he looked at that Abraham? Is God looking at you the same way he looked at the way he looked at Noah? Come on now, Pastor Manning. Come on. You can't be saying that. You claim the Lord gonna slap you upside the head, Pastor Man, for making such statements. But I do want to say that Almighty God has said to me that Harlem is a new promised land, and He's given me a name. If you look in Revelation chapter 3, verse 12, you will see that God promised to give a new name. And He said, him that overcometh, will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out. He shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is the New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from the city of God, and I will write upon him my new name. So Harlem has got a new name, and it's now the New Jerusalem. Now, you don't have to believe that. You don't have to believe that. And you ought to ask the question, and you ought to go to your prayer closet tomorrow morning and say, Lord, is this really true what the Pastor Manning is saying? But one other thing I want to show you, that not only has God given me a new name, I said as many as going nearly 30 years ago now, when God spoke the word ATLAH, I was praying in tongues for all you Pentecostals. I was praying in tongues, and after I finished praying in tongues, the Lord said to me, "I see now the new name that you have spoken is the word that you have just spoken. I've given is a new name I've given for Harlem, and the word I had just spoken was ATLAH." Now, I've stated that word ATLAH had not been heard by men nor angels till God spoke it to me. And at the time, I was not fully cognizant of all the things that God has said about names and about what He had said in the book of Revelation. But He said that I'm the only person on the earth. He hasn't even shared that name with the angels in heaven. So I want to read to you from, what's this? Hold on a second. I want to read to you from Revelation chapter 2, verse 17. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna. Right? Keep that in mind. And I will give him a white stone. I told y'all about my white stone. The virtuous Myers knows about it. And in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. You see that? So God gave to me, and I'm just recapping. We went through this and the process, going back to the Revelation teaching, the first three, 7 through 13. We've already gone over this, and I'm going over this again. I know we're recovering some ground, because I want to bring this message back up to you again, so I can teach you to have no fear, to not fear death. Did you know that? Let's say, for instance, what I'm saying is true. Now, you don't have to believe it is. You don't have to believe it is. You can just believe what you want to believe. You can believe, Pastor Manny, you're not synonymous with Noah. The God don't look upon you the way He did Noah. Yeah, you might preach righteousness, but then you just found it cute, and you just said it. You can say that. It ain't true. What is true? That God put it in my heart to speak it the way He made Noah a preacher of righteousness. But you can say what you like. And then, of course, you go to Genesis chapter 15, verse 6, where Abraham was told, after leaving what is the equivalent of Palm Beach and Beverly Hills in the French and Italian Riviera altogether, in Ur of the Chaldees, and goes into a barren land that nobody knows anything about tumbleweeds and a whole lot of bushes and snakes and everything. He goes to that land, and God says, I'm going to consecrate this land and make it a holy land. And he believes God. And because he believed God, God counted as righteousness to believe Him. So you can say, well, Pastor Manning, I just don't, but let's say first you say, I do believe you, Pastor Manning. Here's what happens. That your belief in these biblical truths, including the new name that God gives in Genesis and Revelation chapter 3, verse 12, and the word name that nobody ever heard in Revelation chapter 3, verse 17. Let's say you do believe all those things are that they have been assigned to my presence. Then here's what happens. That word, that belief system then shields you from death. It shields you from death. When I was in Rayford prison and other places of where there was great death and the sentences of death, everybody in there had a death sentence. The thing that shielded me from death and from mayhem was that I believed God. I believed Jesus had come to me earlier. You see, your belief, and you can call it your faith just to get to a little bit more elementary, your belief, if you believe strong enough you're going to live, you will. The will to live, if you believe, Jesus told the woman that touched the hem of his garment, thy faith has made thee whole. He said, what you have believed, what you have believed have made you whole. If you didn't believe, you weren't going to be made whole. It wasn't so much him, the medicine from his garment, from the hem of his garment. No, that wasn't it. It was what she believed that the garment would heal her, or that Jesus' garment would heal her. So come up close, I want to share this with you. You see, if you believe that God has sent me and has made me synonymous to both Abraham and Noah, and that has given me a word. I'm a man walking around with a word that nobody ever heard, not even the angels, not even Michael or Gabriel. And when you say ATLAH, you are speaking a word directly from the mouth of God. ATLAH, that's what God said. Pastor John Badalada, ATLAH, ATLAH, that's what God said. And every time you say ATLAH, you are speaking a word that came directly from the throne of God, not through the prophets or anybody else, but directly from God to me in a prayer meeting. And if you believe, your belief has the power in a non-sectarian, non-spiritual way. Your belief has the power to sustain you. I believe, like the little train said, I think I can, I believe I can, I will. If you were to believe what I'm saying, then it has the power to stave off death. That's right. So that's why it's important we go over this. I'm going to continue to go over this over. We're now in the season now where the message to the elect, message to the righteousness, you got to look at the composite of what you know about what God has done in my life. And I'm not here promoting me, I'm promoting Jesus. But you got to look at what God has done in the composite of what he's done in my life. And if you believe it is synonymous with the Bible of Noah, of Abraham, and that he has exalted his language with me above the angels, then it's going to help you. You know, David said in Psalms 37, I will never beg bread, I'll never be defeated. And I believe that about myself, and I've been saying it. You know, that's another one I say. And 12 Watts has put down some tracks on that thing that'll make you want to stand up and talk in tongues, where she sings that song. But I believe I will never beg bread, and I'll never be. People say, well, you can't. I think once somebody said to me, Pastor man, you can't say that because you don't know what's going to happen. Stop saying that, because you might be embarrassed one day. Stop saying that you'll never beg bread, you'll never be defeated. Stop saying that. I said it was a church member. Well, so church members said to me, stop saying that, because you may be embarrassed one day. No, you're wrong. You're wrong, church member. No, my belief is stronger than my disbelief. Good God Almighty. My belief is stronger than my disbelief. And my belief will win out over poverty and over want. So that's why it's important for me to keep going over this, the righteousness. And check this out. I don't know the people who submitted that word righteousness to the Urban Dictionary. I don't know. It's not important. What is important is somebody who's been listening to him, who's definitely not a member of the church and probably not even saved. But I've said it with such power, such anointing, righteousness, that they think it ought to be in the dictionary. Now, righteousness is not a new word. It's not a coined word like the long-legged Mac Daddy or the pension-nosed Negro, right? But righteousness or the, tribulation Trump. So people who don't even attend this church and I don't know anything about in the literary world believe what I'm saying so much so they think it ought to be chronicled as an icon for humanity to be able to observe. All right, so we got that, right? So I have a message and to the people and that Harlem, of course, is the promised land. That's beaming out of Harlem. And imagine you listen to Harlem, a preacher out of Harlem every day. Tell your family about that, see what they think. But here, so fear not death in the midst of this coronavirus, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how to protect yourself, but fear not death in the midst of this coronavirus, all right? I want to say this. Now, I was teaching on the Open Rewards prayer meeting. I got started with some of this teaching, and I want to look primarily at all of God's elect, all of God's righteous, all of God's people. Now, I talked yesterday in the earlier teachings as well about God has given me favor, that I think I'm better loved by Japheth people than I am by Hamite people, quite frankly, to tell you the truth. Now, it's probably, it shouldn't matter. And by Shemite people more so than Hamite people. It's my Hamite blood brothers that I have so much trouble with. And people tell me all the time, oh, Lord, I sure wish you were down here in Tennessee. Lord knows all our family members will be joining your church. Up here in Harlem, they walk by me and spit on me. My own people. But I have favor. But I want to deliver a word to the Hamite people in particular, if you don't mind, right? During this period and to the non-elect and to the non-righteous, I'll go give y'all this for free. During this coronavirus period, right? During this coronavirus event, what I want to say is that you need to understand the coronavirus, the death. If you would look at the statistics, I think that 40% to 50% of the 118,000 people that have died in America from coronavirus, right, have been members of some nursing home, whether as it got started in the Lakewood Nursing Home or Lake something up in Seattle, Washington, to over in Maryland or wherever, all nursing homes nationally, that the largest percentage of deaths are happening, coronavirus deaths are happening in nursing home of elderly people or sick people. Right? And then the second largest area where coronavirus deaths are or death is happening is in the Hamite community of people, and not just the ghetto dwellers, but Hamites in general. And so the people to the nursing homes, I don't have a direct message. God will give me one, and I'll come up and I'll speak to try to stave off the deaths in the nursing homes. But the Lord has sent me to talk to people that are members in particular of the Hamite community. And the reason why so many people in the Hamite communities are dying. Now, this is a message to the elect, and I want you to fear not death. And those of you who are not members of the Hamite community, but you're members of God's community of people, you can listen to and take advantage of this. Because some of the things I'm going to say do affect both Shemite and Japheth. One is that you've heard the medical reports yourself that the reason why many Hamites are dying is because they are culturally and I suppose culturally and racially probably more susceptible to diabetes, high blood pressure, heart irregularities, and just weak immune systems in general. They have those as a part of something that is culturally a higher degree of diabetes, heart issues, blood pressure issues in the Hamite community than is in the Japheth or the Shemite community. Now there is blood pressure and coronary issues and diabetes in Japheth and Shemite, but not nearly as much as in the Hamites. And one of the things that the coronavirus does in terms of killing people is that it kills people who are suffering from those particular items. So therefore, the Hamite people are making up the other 30%. So if there's 40% of people that are dying in nursing homes, the other 30% of the 118,000 people that have died as Hamites because they were already, their body's weak with blood pressure problems, diabetes, and other kinds of sicknesses and maladies. So what I want to do, if I have enough time to try to complete this today, if not, I'll come back for another time, is to say to the Hamite people, and everybody's listening now, right? Everybody's listening, to say to the Hamite people, you know, you ought to go on a no salt, no sugar diet. Now, whatever you're cooking right now with salt, I don't think you ought to change that recipe. You may take away a pinch, but don't make food saltless. Don't do that. But don't add salt. And as I was saying the other day, stay away from the Italian restaurants. Those boys they love salt. But you know, and then if we break down the social structure, and I'm gonna come down to the diets and some applications I think that will help to lower the blood pressure and deal with the diabetes. And I'm coming to that if I get time today. My time is running quickly, and I got a whole lot that I want to say here. Now remember, this is a message to the elect and to the righteous. And remember, all the things that Pastor Manning have been prophesying about ATLAH, about in preaching righteousness, that he's so impressed the Urban Dictionary that they put righteousness. His name has appeared now 6 times in the Urban Dictionary. Even the secular non-religious people are so impressed with what he's preaching. Is Pastor Manning synonymous? Is Pastor Manning like seen and before God as was Noah, who was a preacher also of righteousness? And Abraham, who believed God about a promised land, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Is Pastor Manning a righteous man number 3? Is he? All right. And so the elect, which I am, I think the other thing I need to say to you is that is that the other place, now when we look deeper into the demographics, first the nursing homes, and then most people in the nursing homes are Hamites in the nursing homes. Then when we look deeper into the second with the other 30%, so we got 70% of the coronavirus, 70,000 people that have died either as black people or as people in nursing homes. That's right. And when we look deeper within the 30% of those that have died, they are also, the 30% of the Hamites that have died have been members of black churches. That's right, so-called black churches. By that I mean black Baptists, Pentecostals, black charismatics, black African American, black churches, and black religious organizations. And in these religious organizations, you will find a looser, less responsibility. If you go to a church, and a Hamite church, I say black because that's what most people understand, they are the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Unrestricted when it comes to diet. They eat anything. I mean, I think you, in order to qualify to be a member of a black Baptist church or a black Pentecostal church or African Methodist Episcopal church, in order to qualify, you got to be able to say, I will eat anything. And they eat anything in these churches. And not at at whatever the socials or dinners or things that they have, that they do that too. But as a collective group in their own individual homes, they eat anything. And everything they eat is high blood pressure prone, high blood pressure, diabetes prone, coronary heart arteries prone, sickness is up the wazoo. I mean, the black churches are notable for eating. They restrict nothing. They eat anything. They're like Mikey. The black church members are like Mikey. They eat anything, and they will. They have no restriction about anything they don't eat. And some people, I don't eat that, the Muslims say, well, I don't eat that. No, not black church people. And so therefore, when you look deeper within the demographics of those that have died from coronavirus, now remember righteousness. Remember, Noah was a preacher of righteousness. I'm a preacher of righteousness. Abraham believed God about the new promised land, and it counted him righteousness. Remember that, right? So black church people, when you look within the 70% of people that have died as a result of coronavirus over the last 3 months, 30% of them are black that are not in the nursing home. And the larger percent of them that have died also church people. We had right here across the street, well, not across the street, but about 4 or 5 blocks from here, a church called the Mount Nebo Baptist Church, where 9 members of that church died at one time from coronavirus. 9 people. All died coronavirus. So, being a part of the black church, the black churches are generally places where anything goes. I'm telling you, they have no restrictions on anything goes. They say they preach the Bible and everything, but Lord have mercy, anything goes in the Black Pentecostal, Black Baptist. And you talk to them about don't eat this or don't eat that. You're gonna they will pull out a knife and cut your throat. If you want a Pentecostal church to say don't eat this or don't eat that, they will cut your throat and then start talking in tongues. Let me also include the Apostolic Church as well. The Apostolics. They will literally cut your throat because they do anything. They are the most unrestricted people. And by the way, they die sooner than anybody else. They die so. Catholic women and men live to be in the 80s and 90 years old. I just heard about Jean Kennedy, John Kennedy's sister. She just died today, 92 years of age, right? Catholics, right? Catholics, they go to church, they kneel and bow, they genuflex and all that, and they take all that smoke and communion at every service. But they live to 80, 90, 99, 100 years of Catholics. Baptists, 60 years old, they checking out of here. 60 years old, they can't walk. Their bodies are all messed up. They're taking all kinds of medication. Because they eat anything, and they're unrestricted. There's no restriction in the black churches, the apostolics. Not here to beat up on black folk. You know where I'm going with it. You do remember what the whole subject matter is about here today, is that we're seeing if Pastor Manning his preaching of righteousness is aligned with, does God look upon Pastor Manning the way he looked upon Noah? And does Pastor Manning now occupy the position that Noah once occupied before the great flood and the great rain? Or does Pastor Manning occupy the same position that Abram had when he left Ur of the Chaldees? And God talked to him, Abram, about the land flowing with milk and honey, the way God's telling Pastor Manning about Harlem and ATLAH. Does God look upon Pastor Manning as he did with Abraham? You don't have to believe that it does, but that's the question. And you're going to pray about it. So in the context of that, we're now trying to say, all right, let's try to save some people from the coronavirus deaths. Let's go at a group of people that are occupying most of the death certificates. They're Hamite people because of what they eat. And so the black churches, and I would say to you, the summer is here now. And there's going to be, you're going to want to move around a little bit because it's warm and everything. And I'm not against anybody that's overweight, but you should stay away from the salt, stay away from the sugar. Just completely stay away from the sugar. You just stay away. It's worse than salt. The salt's bad, but stay away from both of them. You say, well, how do I do that? Well, you can still use salt to cook the food. When you cook the food, and you cook the salt into the food, it's not as bad as sprinkling the salt on the food. That's the granulars go right into your blood system and give you the heebie-jeebies. When you cook it, it's cooked into the food. But the granular salt goes right into your blood system, man, you're gonna have the heebie-jeebies. And same thing with granular sugar. So, stay away from those. Now you can have something that's sweet, but don't overdo it. And if you want it sweet at all, just don't touch it at all. But you go in the Apostolic Church or the Pentecostal Church, everybody in there is overweight. Why? Because they don't have any restrictions. It's just like the dress sizes and the suit sizes just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and nobody tells them to slow down. The pastor didn't tell him he's overweight too. So this summer's coming, right? Watch, all the gatherings and the socials and all that things and these family groups and the summer outings and whatnot. Watch what you eat. Watch what you eat. Since the coronavirus, Elizabeth and I, we've been ordering food from Omaha Steaks. Y'all know Omaha Steaks out in Omaha, Nebraska. Steaks are pretty good, relatively priced, and that way I have to go shopping for them. They get delivered right to the door, and I can choose the kind of steaks I want rather than, and they're pretty good. Omaha Steaks. You like Omaha? I like Omaha Steaks. You might try them. I'm not advertising. I did advertise for Omaha Steaks many years ago. Omaha Steaks, Omaha. North Carolina people can't talk. Country people. I'm country. So they made us take a package of Frank's hot dogs, right? And the hot dogs was 70% beef and 30% pork, right? So I said, I'm not eating it, so we can't get it, but you got to take it to get the other deals you got to take. So we took the hot dogs, right? So, but I said, I'm not going to give them to anybody because I'm not giving anybody any pork. I'm not going to do it, right? So what's wrong with pork? Don't take no pork chop off my plate. So the other night I told Elizabeth, I said, well, cook one of those hot dogs. Let me see, cook with that. So she cooked it. It looked awful. It smelled awful. Now what I'm about to say, you may want to close your ears, but I have to tell you the truth. It has 70% beef, 30% pork, and I don't eat pork. I don't eat pork at all, not at all. I'd rather drink a box of salt than eat pork. But I said, okay, let me taste this hot. Let's see what it costs. The Omaha Steaks food is really good. The steaks are good. So Elizabeth cooked one of them, and I cut off it tastes all right. Then I cut off another piece, and I said, oh no, I don't want to eat this. So I told her to throw it away. She did. But last night I started getting sick. Now here's the thing you don't want to hear. Actually, it gave me diarrhea. You don't want to hear that. You didn't hear me. I didn't say it. But it did. That stuff, and a headache too. I don't get headaches. But I got a little woozy. Could that pork touch my, and no, it was the hot dog, I only ate like 2 pieces of it. 30% and then 70%, but that pork is powerful. It will kill you. So watch out. All right, unless you want to get on the coronavirus death list. So you can cook with salt. Cook it thoroughly. Let it melt into the food. But don't those salt granulars, like Elder Bowman used to do. That boy should walk around with a bottle of salt in his pocket. Doggone. Don't add salt to your food. Whatever, I don't care what it tastes like, just don't add it. And just keep eating it. Keep eating it and keep eating. Here's what you do. You say, well, Pastor Man, I love a little bit more salt on my chicken. I love a little bit more salt on my potatoes, man. A little bit more salt on my potato salad. And but here's what you do. I'll tell you what you do. So just eat the food without the salt, right? The salt that's already cooked into it, good. You're good to go. But your habit has been to always sprinkle salt. No, don't do that. All right, don't do that. You say, well, don't taste as good. Just go ahead and eat it anyway. Eat that. And just eat for the next 7 weeks, until sometime in August, right? And you eating without sprinkled salt. And what you're going to discover is that the food will taste good and you will not miss the salt anymore. In other words, you have become acclimated to a lot of salt. You like salt, but you don't have to have it. The food can taste good. Now, salt does enhance the flavor of food. I can tell you that. Now, and I tell you the other thing, got to watch out for steak sauce and ketchup and and hot sauce, because you got a lot of salt in that too. That's what makes it taste so good. The hot sauce, the ketchup, and the barbecue sauce, that stuff has got more salt than the Great Salt Lake. But what I'm saying to you is that normalize your diet without salt, and after about 7 weeks, you won't miss it. You'll notice the food has a wonderful flavor and a wonderful taste, and you might start enjoying the flavors of the food rather than the flavors of the salt enhancement, and you won't need it anymore. You can take 7 weeks to wean yourself, but you got to wean yourself. Amen? So, and now here, just look at the time. My time is almost gone. So here's some other things that you want to do. You want to 7 weeks, no salt, 7 weeks, no sugar. Now you can have a little sweet stuff, but not much. Don't go overboard with that whole business, right? And I would say that one of the things that you want to do is that foods that grow in the earth have a propensity and a potential to lower your blood pressure on just automatically, salt or no salt. For instance, like potatoes, white potatoes, or Irish potatoes, or turnips, or carrots, or sweet potatoes, right? Peanuts. The foods that you have to pull up out of the ground and got to wash the dirt off of them, right? And that's just a few that I just named. That you have to pull up out of the ground and wash the dirt. They will lower your blood pressure just by eating them. They are medicine of their own. And everybody knows the best medicine in the world is a potato. Everybody knows that. Why? It grows on the ground, it's full of dirt, and it'll just lower your blood pressure and your diabetes too. So potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, onions, turnips, and whatnot. I bought some turnips the other day, and Elizabeth showed it to me. It looked like it had mold. I said, what is? I said, maybe these people are growing these turnips in an incubator somewhere. Maybe they're not growing them in the ground. We got to watch these people in New York. Maybe they're not growing them in the ground anymore. What is this? But turnips are, potatoes. And then the next category of food. Now, there are a whole lot of foods that grow underneath, that grow in the ground that you got to actually pull up out of the ground, right? The next category of foods that would be foods that grow right on the ground. For instance, the two best foods in the world. Listen to the good Dr. Manning here today. The two best foods in the world. One is the potato and the other is the watermelon. Now, the one thing black folk got right is the watermelon. No, because the watermelon grows right on the ground, right? In fact, you get a good watermelon. How do you know you got a good watermelon? Turn it over and look if at the bottom of the watermelon, it could be green and striped right on the top, right? Green and striped on the top. Then you turn it over, and if the bottom of the watermelon is yellow because it's been on the ground and it didn't get the sun, then you know you got a good watermelon. But you get a watermelon, it's green everywhere, something's up. It may have been grown someplace in the incubator, so watch out, right? It needs to be yellow on the bottom. But watermelon is really a good food. Plus it has natural sugar. And you can make watermelon drinks if you like that kind of thing. Some of these black folk are scared to serve watermelon to their white friends because people can start laughing at them. Watermelons, cucumbers, right? They grow on top of the earth, And the foods that grow right beneath the earth and then right above the earth are the best. And then now there's low-hanging fruit like tomatoes, right? They don't grow, they hang above the earth, they're low-hanging. They're good too, but not as good as a watermelon. So if you have between an onion that grows underground, so if you put an onion and a tomato together, you got a pretty good combo. These are foods that, and then foods that grow high up above the ground, they can give you high blood pressure and diabetes. People like pineapples, they really are. They're good, but they are sweet. Those things are full of sugar, and though it's natural sugar, it still will drive your diabetes through the roof. Apples as well. That's right. Oranges, stay away from them. Pears, they're sweet, they're mellow, they're good, but what else? Pineapples, oranges, pears, grapefruits, and even grapes themselves, they grow high above the ground, high-hanging fruit, low-hanging fruit, high-hanging fruit. The higher up the fruit, the higher up the food process, the more sugar and the more it is, and bananas, it's another one too, will drive your blood pressure. Bananas are number one killers. No, they are. You can eat them moderately. I didn't say you can't have, but don't go through thinking because it's natural, doesn't have, there's still, the cane is natural too, got cane sugar. So those are some of the things I thought I would share with y'all today that you might be able to help, so align yourself. So you can eat a lot of fish, and you can eat chicken and beef as well. But I got to go today. I got to wrap this up. Let me wrap this up by saying, let me come back now down to how do we get into that? 30% of the coronavirus deaths are happening with black people who eat wrong foods or unrestricted in their diet, and then will get an attitude, which I'm telling an apostolic Pentecostal person will cut your throat if you tell them not to eat pork and not to eat, they will cut your throat, run you out the church. And you go into these churches and all you see is sickness. You go into the Catholic Church, you see people sitting there quietly, aging very quietly, very strongly. You go into Apostolic, Pentecostal, Baptist, African American, all you see is sickness, wheelchairs, canes, crutches, walkers. My God, it looks like almost some of these African Methodist churches look like a waiting room in a hospital. But not so in the Catholic Church, not so in the Jewish synagogue. Why? Because the Hamite people are unrestricted. They don't want nobody to tell them what to eat and how to eat, and will get an attitude at you and throw you out the church. And the pastor is the biggest transgressor of them all. The biggest swine eater you ever want to find is the pastor. So we're saying, we're giving this message out so we can we can stop the coronavirus death, not with a vaccine, but just by building a stronger immune system. 40% of the deaths are happening in nursing homes, and many of those within the nursing home context are Hamites. 30% of the deaths are happening in the Hamite community, and the other 30% are happening in general, mostly Japheth and some Jewish. Jewish people are not dying in this coronavirus, better immune system. Japheth people are not dying in this proportionally in this coronavirus because they got better immune systems. So I wanted to be able to say that to you as well. And another thing is that you got to stop wearing all these tight clothes. The women, stop wearing all these tight clothing. Hamite women generally have the biggest rear ends on the planet. I don't mean to be facetious or anything. And then they want to show it all the time. You got to, and you got all these tight stuff. You're tightened down. Your blood can't flow to your heart. You're fainting all over everywhere. See people in the Pentecostal church fainting. They ain't fainting because of the Holy Ghost. They're fainting because they got these tight girdles and belts and stockings and whatever else they got on. They falling out from no blood to the brain. And you have to watch restricting blood going to your vein, to your brain over a period of time. It causes your vessels to get weak. And you find you're getting less blood, and the older you get, the more you begin to forget stuff because you've been wearing all these tight clothes all the time that just presses again. I saw some of these young people too start out very young. Those tight jeans. How'd you get into them pants? Those things are so tight. You had to grease yourself down and have somebody with a pulley put you in them. Then how you going to take them off? They're so tight. I'm talking about young people. You're talking 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And then you got the older women doing the same thing. So you got to let your blood flow freely. You know, I stopped wearing belts. I put one on every now and then. But I had Elizabeth put buttons on all my pants so I could wear suspenders. Because you put on a belt, you know, and then it tightens up around your stomach, your liver, your kidneys. So I wear suspenders now, right? That helps me out a little bit. And all of these things will help improve your life. I'm doing this. The Lord told me to do it, so I'm doing it. But my purpose is to keep you from fearing death. The purpose is to bring you back home to the fact, does the Lord God Almighty look upon me the same way he did Noah as a preacher of righteousness? Is Pastor Manning a preacher of righteousness? Well, I tell you, won't ask you because you ain't gonna do the right thing. Ask the Urban Dictionary. Is Dr. Manning a preacher of righteousness? Ask them. Ask a secular, non-believing, non-member of the congregation of the church, is Pastor Manning a preacher of righteousness? Who else do you know in the Bible is a preacher of righteousness? Noah. And then you got Pastor Manning. He's not a preacher of prosperity. Well, we want to Joel Osteen preach prosperity, Creflo Dollar, Titty Jack, Titty Jack, Titty Jack, they preach prosperity, righteousness. Well, we were righteousness. We want prosperity. We want righteousness. Okay. But Noah was not a preacher of prosperity. Right? Now, Abraham preached about the promised land, and so do I. But you want to ask yourself that question, is Pastor Manning, a preacher of righteousness? Now, finally, my friends, I got a few minutes more. Can I say one other thing to you? And I promise not to flick my three other things, and I'm gone. Thing number one is that love your hair. Now, if you got a real hair problem, you're bald-headed or something like that, if you're a man, so what? It ain't got nothing to do with anything. But if you're a woman and your hair is not necessarily where it needs to be, okay, you want to put on a little wig, all right, but don't wear it too much. But, I'm concerned about the women who put all these braids in their hair because it tightens your hair and it pulls your skin. They tie it up real tight and they make it real tight. And then I saw a woman the other day, she had braids, they were all the way down to her buttocks, right? Those things are heavy. So you would almost kill yourself. Those braids, they were all down here, and there must have been at least 20 pounds of hair on her head. Now, some of the members of our church work in the hair braiding business, African women, so that's I'm cutting into their business right now. But, 20 pounds of hair on your head is not natural. And some of these weaves, you got 5-10 pounds of hair on your head. That ain't natural. It's gonna pull it's gonna pull your skin. It's gonna, that ain't natural, homie. And then I saw some men there that men would Rasta stuff, right? I'm not against you Rasta, right? Haile Selassie, okay, all right. But these guys got that stuff twirled around their head 4 and 5 feet deep, 2 feet high, and then they got to drop it down their back. They got 30 pounds of hair on their natural hair on their head. That ain't natural for your body, your neck, to carry that much hair, that much weight, man. That ain't natural. What about the men of old? They had hair. Yeah, but they groomed it. All this hair on your head, your neck breaking, that's number one. Number two is that, work on your face and your teeth. All right? Your face can withstand anything. Do you know that? Your face can withstand, oh Lord, look at that. Good God Almighty. Get rid of that guy. Your face can stand anything. Your face can stand anything from a slap to a whack with a bat. Just close your eyes. The face is probably the most vulnerable, most powerful segment of your body. That's right, it can withstand anything. Even all that the makeup and stuff y'all put on it. You can wash it right off. So work on improving your skin, your face, and your teeth, and that'll offset if your hair is so bad. Now, if you got bad hair and you don't come in our church looking bad. do something. do something. But don't overdo it. Do it modest. You want to put on a little something, look a little wig or something. All right, okay. All right. But don't be putting all that, going to the beautician, they're putting 3 feet of dreads hanging down your back, and then you got to hang across your shoulder, and it's swinging all over everywhere you're walking out. What is this? You're going to kill yourself, break your neck. You're going to be like George Floyd. All that stuff, that ain't natural. That is not natural. Then the third thing is wear a mask, all right? Don't let these people tell you that it's over with. The coronavirus ain't going to be over with till sometime in 2021. I can tell you that. Don't take off your mask. And with me, I wear gloves when I go out, too. You don't say wear a mask. No, but no. So what we're saying to you is some things to help keep you around for a while. Amen. Now, one final thing I want to say to you. That was the third thing. And the final thing is this. Don't let these people run me out of Harlem. These Hamite people. The Hamite people are known for eating their own. Some people said the Hamite people are like crabs in a barrel. Don't let them. I'm not afraid of the JFIB LGBTQ people up here in Harlem. I'm not afraid. It's these Hamite people. Don't let them run me out of Harlem. Y'all gonna pray with me? And I'm speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth. You may not like it because it puts you in line. It makes you righteous up. It destroys all of your misbeliefs and your lies, and it gets right in your face in terms of your wicked and wretched lifestyle. I'm telling the truth. You got most sick people in the Apostolic, Pentecostal, Black Baptist, African Methodist Church you got anywhere else, overweight that'll eat anything there. It's true. It's true. And they die quicker than everybody else. It's true. Join the ATLAH Church. You may be running around and dance and talk in tongues all day long, but you'll live 25 years longer in a church that adheres to God's word. So what do you want? You want to dance and sing and die at 62? Or you want to be a part of a ministry that will help you live according to God's word? And you're up to 92 and you still can give God the praise. You got to make up your mind. You got to realize that the level of teaching. Don't let these people run me out of town because I don't get down with all that crazy stuff. Like I started, imagine all the women are going to start coming at me because I said, take all that stuff out your, it's too much weight on your head. Imagine all the people, I ain't going to Lord tell me what to do. I can tell me why I wear my hair the way I want to wear. No preacher telling me nothing about my braid. He don't telling me nothing. Getting in my business. Mind your own business, preacher. You see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to help, right? Don't let them run me out of town, all right? Pray for me. Up there in Harlem, up there in ATLAH, that's what God said. Righteousness. That's what Noah said, and that's what God said. And Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Praise Almighty God. Well, we got Father's Day coming up this weekend. Praise the Lord. And we'll have a great celebration here at the ATLAH World Missionary Church. Even with the coronavirus thing, we're trying to figure out how to do that, how to make that all take place in a way that's meaningful. At any rate, stay tuned for the next message of the Manning Report. I am he, James David Manning, and to you out there, everybody, peace out.
Of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though be cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. I shall never beg bread, I shall never be defeated, for the Lord is my refuge and my strength. I shall never beg bread, I shall never be defeated, for the Lord is my shelter and my shield. For the Lord is my refuge and my strength. I have been young and now am old, yet have I never ever seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He is merciful, yeah, and he is blessed. I shall never beg bread, and I'll never be defeated, for the Lord is our refuge and our shield. We shall never beg bread, we shall never be defeated, for the Lord is our shelter and our shield. For the Lord is our refuge and our strength.
Welcome, everybody, to the Manning Report. I am James David, righteous rebel man in the quintessential American. How's everybody doing on this 18th day of June, the day of the coronavirus? And there is at least reported by Johns Hopkins University that 118,000 plus people have died as a result of the coronavirus. And the death started 3 months ago, actually going on 4 months now. And the prognosticators are saying that's another 70,000 people will die by the end of August. And don't let you be one of them, but that death march is definitely without any opposition to it right now. What I'd like to do in the teachings today, there are a lot of things that are happening in the news. John Bolton's book, it happened in the room where it happened, and all that kind of stuff is going on, and now you can get that someplace else. If you want to, the so-called rally that's going to be happening down in Tulsa, and what's happening in Greenwood, you can get that someplace else. Like today, what I want to do is I want to look at an issue that I think is very important. To me, it's extremely important, and that is the deconstructing of the memorials and the statues and the history of the Confederate South. The taking down of the statues, and now the banning of the Dixie flag at the NASCAR race that happened this past week. And, the removal of all the Confederate icons and statues and everything else that's associated with America went through strife with herself, and the Union forces were able to overcome the Confederate forces, and the Confederates no longer have their opportunities, and so they're removing the Confederate flags and the statues, and I'm here to go on record today to say I'm totally 100% stomped down against that move. I think the Confederate flag ought to remain flying. They took it down several years ago. Nikki Haley got involved in the process down in Columbia, South Carolina. I preached one Sunday there on the steps of the house or whatever it is in Columbia University, State House in Columbia University. I preached down there under the Confederate flag years ago. I posed in Gettysburg in our second meeting at Gettysburg with a couple of soldiers that were dressed in gray Confederate outfits that were actually original, authentic Confederate outfits and their Confederate flag, and I posed with them there at Gettysburg when we had our 4th of July celebrations going back a few years ago. I'm against the removal of the Confederate flag. I'm against the taking down of the statues. Now, I am not for racism. I am not for racial hatred. I'm not for white supremacy. I'm not for white separatists. I'm not for segregation. I am not for any of those things that perhaps one may say that the Confederate flag represents. I am not for any of those things. I am not. What I am for is history. You cannot rewrite it. And I think that this notion that by destroying all symbols of the Confederacy, that it was just as much a part of American history as, Christopher Columbus and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that it's just as much a part of the American history as many of the Indian tribal names that are right here in the state of New York. Many of the cities and towns and rivers are named after the indigenous people that were defeated by the invaders, if you will, years ago. And we haven't changed the names of the Sequoias or the name of some of the literally thousands of names of the Indian indigenous people that we went to, or that they went to war. The Japheth brothers, the Puritans, the Pilgrims went to war with over a series of years and defeated the Indians and drove them onto reservations. But the names of the rivers and towns, many of the towns of upstate New York probably has more Indian names than you can shake a stick at. The lakes and the rivers are all from the Indian culture of the indigenous people. I don't hear anybody saying remove that. I think it's petty. I think it is filled with more racial hatred than the Dixie flag itself. I think the people who are advocating for the removal of the Dixie flag are filled with more racial hatred than you can shake a stick at, because we've been living fairly peacefully with those flags flying in certain venues. I'm wholeheartedly against it. I'm against the removal of the statues. And Robert E. Lee is a favorite person of mine. You say, well, Pastor Manning, how can you say that? Aren't you aren't you a black person? Aren't you? These are generals that fought to keep you enslaved. Well, they lost. They lost. So, they didn't win. So, well, it's not a matter that they lost. Their intent was to keep you enslaved. Well, it didn't happen. A whole lot of people have had intents against me or against others. They lost. And that's all water under the bridge right now. Well, then they shouldn't be honored. Why not? Why not? It doesn't hurt anybody. I think that, it ought to make everybody stronger. That's what I think. I think that by completely removing the so-called opposition forces that believed in slavery and states' rights ought to make people who at least one feel more of an accomplishment, and those of us ought to feel that, all right, so this is a part of our history, our heritage, and we cannot undo it. And so I'm just against it. I support that a movement to restore this, and I think that people need to be. I think this is basically an idea that is fueled by some of probably the biggest racial hatred people that you're going to find, and a lot of these Japheth people probably have greater suspicions and racial, if you will, separation ideas and condescending ideas against black people than did the Confederates did. I can tell you, there are some people that sit in Wall Street, or there are some people in Hollywood, or there's some people in the entertainment industry that their racial suspicions and activities are worse than the plantation owner. You just got to get to know them. For instance, let's say, for instance, you're looking at the number of young men that are being killed by police and allegedly police brutality. And I say allegedly police brutality, and I mean that. Can I share something with you? You would think that the only place that you would have racial hatred that would emanate into or end up in the shooting or hanging or the lynching or mistreating or brutality against a black man. It would only happen in the southern states where they want to take down the Dixie flag and the statues of Robert E. Lee and change the name of the forts, right? You would think, well, that's where it's at, so let's go down there. Can I share something with you? And I promise not to inflict myself upon you any further. Can I share something with you that right here in the state of New York, come on, let's take it home. Let's put it out where you can get it. Right here in the city of New York, there has been per capita more alleged police brutality and killings of black men in New York than there have been in Mississippi or in Georgia or Louisiana or South Carolina. There have been more racially charged alleged police brutality. Let me name one. We'll go Eric Garner most recently, right? Remember him? We'll go back to several years ago to a place called Brooklyn, New York precinct, and let's talk about a fellow by the name of Abner Louima. Arrested by some white boys, white cops, right? Took him in the bathroom and took a plunger that you use with a wooden handle on it, that you use to make the toilet go down when sometimes it get stopped up. They stuck that plunger up his rectum time and time and time again. These are two freaky cops. They were freaky cops in the precinct. Tore that man's total intestine, had to have a new set of intestines. Abner Louima, right here in Brooklyn, New York. That's what they did to him. So we got Eric Garner. A few years after that, we had a fellow by the name of Amadou Diallo. Amadou Diallo, right? His mother cried, Amadou, up in the Bronx, on the west side of the Bronx, going into his apartment at one night, and there was a group of police officers that were just recently disbanded. Sabbath sent me a report about some 600 police officers that patrol the streets at night in plain clothes, plain cars, no badge, don't show nothing. They'll jump out of a car, whoop your head in New York City and get back. Don't make no arrest reports, don't report to the desk sergeant. They do whatever and their motto of Sabbath, of this group that you sent me their motto is, we own the night. Several of these police officers accosted Amadou Diallo going into his apartment up in the Bronx one night, and they all jumped out the car thinking he was somebody else and told him to halt, and he had a cell phone. They said he reached for it. I don't believe it. They opened up fire. They hit that boy 41 times into Amadou Diallo. We're talking about New York. We ain't talking about Mississippi. We ain't talking about Tennessee. We ain't talking about Louisiana, Georgia. We talking about right here in New York. We're talking about. So if you're going to talk about that, and then of course we had Sean Bell. Remember him, the nightclub out there in Queens? Popo rolled up out there and sprayed him full of butter. Sean Bell. Then you got Michael Griffin. This goes back even 30 years ago. Michael Griffin, 35 years ago, out in Howard Beach, right? A bunch of young white boys in Howard Beach. And by the way, we were out there in Canarsie the other day, near Howard Beach. Caught this young black boy out there, Michael Griffin, and with baseball bats and axes ran him out into the traffic on the Belt Parkway, and he killed himself. This is in New York. This ain't in Mississippi. This is in New York City. This ain't even in Washington D.C. This is New York City. Well, Michael Griffin. And then, of course, we had Sean Bell. Then you got Eric Garner, and there are others that have been killed right here in New York City. So now check this out. That if the South is the place where allegedly racism happens, why is it that you got more deaths of black men in New York City per capita than you have any other place on planet Earth? by police brutality, right? So it isn't the South. It isn't the Confederate flag. You would think where the Confederate flag or the statues of Robert E. Lee were held, that would be the place where the sentiments against blacks would be most egregious, and that's where but no, it's here in liberal New York, LGBTQ, New York City, NAACP Shopton, New York City. It's where you got more deaths of black men than any other place on the planet in terms of police brutality. Go figure, right? So something in this wash ain't clean. Somebody this ain't right. Somebody, so certainly being in the North does not save you from police brutality, or racism. The absence of a Confederate flag not flying anywhere in New York does not save you from racism or from death. No, it does not. No, so it ain't the flag. It's the people. And it ain't the Southern people. It's the Northern people, the ones you got to watch. It's the one that smile in your face and stab you in your back. Those are in the North that you got to watch. So I'm against this rule. I think it's wrong. I'm against it. I have nothing against the Confederate flag. Let them fly. Robert E. Lee is a hero of mine. So listen. I even looked at some of the things of Genghis Khan from time to time. Yeah, I don't know if I call him a hero. You know, I mean, I can be open-minded about stuff. But can I say one other thing to you? And I promise not to inflict myself upon you any further, truly. So, the Emperor of Japan in 1941, right? In the midst of the war going on in the European theater with Hitler and his Nazi regime, decided now was the time to attack America. Roosevelt was acting all weak. His wife was running around there, Eleanor was running around there, running her mouth. Roosevelt sitting in a chair. They all sleeping in different bedrooms, different part of the house. So the Japanese emperor said, now's the time to whack America. Because Japanese are some feisty little people, I can tell you that right now. So they put together an armada of ships and airplanes and left Tokyo and headed towards Hawaii on that infamous Sunday morning. And everybody knows after that, everything else has been history. The Japs attacked America, sank the beautiful Arizona, killed hundreds, if not thousands of people in that event, and that's when World War II got started for America. We were attacked by the Japanese. And of course, in Midway, if you know anything about the confrontations in the Western theater with the Japanese war of Japanese in Midway, Iwo Jima, some of the other great battlefields itself fighting the Japanese, a lot of soldiers lost their lives and died painfully by Japanese. They had bamboo sticks. My father came home from the war with a disease that had been spread by the Japanese in New Guinea as they tried to take the Western Front. And Japanese had these bombs called the bouncing Bettys. You would step on a grenade, it wouldn't just go off. And probably at the time, it would only just kill you if you stepped on it. The Japanese had a thing called the bouncing Betty. You step on it, the hand grenade would jump up in the air about 4.5 feet and then explode and kill everybody within the parameter of it. My father went through that and came home shell-shocked from fighting the Japanese, right? The Japanese. And finally, Truman dropped a big bomb on them with that Enola Gay plane. Y'all remember that, and General Doolittle and all that kind of stuff, right? But guess what? Y'all fly the Japanese flag down there at the United Nations. That's right. And people can go down to America in the store in America and buy the Japanese flag. Heck, I bought a Lexus automobile the other day. Y'all buying them Sonys, you're buying them Panasonics, you're buying all that Japanese phone, all that Japanese. I ain't heard nobody say we ought not be buying no Japanese materials. I ain't heard nobody say get rid of all these Japanese Toyotas. I ain't heard, and by the way, General Toyota, the Captain Admiral Toyota Admiral Toyota was the admiral, one of the greatest naval sailing vessels in the history of the world. Admiral Toyota. And y'all buying them Toyotas, proud to run around. I tell y'all, that Toyota's a good, the Sienna, and that good. But I ain't hear nobody say don't buy no Toyotas, or Lexus, or Panasonic, or Sony. No! But the Japanese killed Americans too. Brought my father home sick. I ain't heard nobody say take down the Japanese. Now y'all a bunch of damn hypocrites. This is all they do. You're just a bunch of hypocrites. This is all there is to it. No, no. I'm against it. And I think people need to wake up. And the Japanese lost. And now y'all can't wait to go over there and eat some sushi. Look at you. Talking about sushi. You don't even know what sushi is. Talking about I want some sushi. So I think it's important. But you know, because Japanese, all right, let's stop there. You know, Santa Ana whacked the living daylights out of the Alamo down there in Texas, right? Santa Ana marched up with them red uniforms out of Mexico City, down there in Mexico. Marched up against Jim Bowie, Sam Houston, and all that crowd, Davy Crockett, all that crowd down there in the Alamo in Texas, sieged that bad boy and killed all of them. Killed all of them. And y'all still letting the Mexicans come in. And I ain't seen y'all take down the images of Santa Ana or the Mexican flag, right? And guess what? Check this out. And this will kill you. This one will absolutely stomp down, choke you. So when I worked for Ford Motor Company, you know, they said that Henry Ford was a racist, that he hated the Jews. Okay, all right. I don't know if he did or not. But you know, the Germans, they didn't necessarily attack America but America got involved in the German Nazi war, right? So it was the same thing. And a lot of, hundreds of thousands of Americans, I mean, if you go over to Normandy, you ever been to Normandy in Paris, in France? Look at all them soldiers on D-Day, on Omaha Beach, on Utah Beach, all them American soldiers that lost their lives, tens of thousands of them in Normandy and Utah Beach on D-Day, right? German soldiers whacked the living daylights out of young white boys and black boys in the D-Day invasion, right? But guess what? When I was working for Ford Motor Company, and there was a Jamaica Lincoln dealership and I asked the owner of the dealership. I said, you have he had also a Volkswagen dealership. I said, Volkswagen is a German car. It means Volkswagen means the car of the people. It's a German automobile, very popular going back years ago, still popular, the Volkswagen. How can you, as a Jew, buy a German product? Because it was the Germans that tried to kill the Jews. Listen, we don't forget that Jewish owner in the Ford Motor Company said, we forgot about that. We sell it. These Volkswagens are selling, and we're gonna sell some of them. And check this out. The Germans make that Mercedes-Benz. The Germans make that BMW. Oh, yes, they do. No, yes, they do. And I see Jew and Gentile alike buying them Mercedes-Benz, BMW. I don't see y'all holding against the Germans. When millions of people lost their lives because of the Japanese and the Germans, and yet Americans are still, everything is everything. So you're a bunch of damn hypocrites. You're a bunch of hypocrites. And somebody ought to tell you. Somebody ought to tell you about yourselves. So no, I'm not for the, well, I got one more. Can I do just one more? And I promise. B.B. King says he's playing, that's why I sing the blues, and he went around on the guitar, and he came back, and he said, can I do one more? I said, can I do one more? America got established, first of all, as a colony of the United Kingdom, Great Britain. And more specifically, there have been several kings that had led, but at the time that America decided to rebel against England was King George was on the throne, right, many moons ago. But the American people said we've had enough of this colonization business. We're tired of taxation without representation. We're here in America now. Why we still got to support the English cause, pay them taxes, and be subject to the king and have the laws of England rolling over us here in America? So they decided to have a revolutionary war. Yes, that's right. Revolutionary war. Bunker Hill, right? Want to have a revolutionary war. And so they declared war. No taxation without representation. And off they went. And King George sent his armada of ships and redcoats. That's right. Marched into America. Eventually with the help of the French, and Ben Franklin's and the great negotiating skills, America won the war and won its independence from the French. I mean, from England. But you know, the Americans still call them England the mother country. What the hell? Didn't y'all fight? Didn't y'all? What? Didn't the English kill slaves and free men alike here in America? Didn't George Washington handle it? I mean, and now you're talking about America is still your greatest, England is still your greatest ally. You know, Mother England. Hell, everywhere I look, they got streets and names and towns and rivers after them people over there in England somewhere. All these, you know, St. Lawrence and all these Amsterdams and all this stuff, all these names that belong over yonder in England, here in America, right? Syracuse. No! You're a bunch of phonies. You just want to pick on the Southern boys, is that right? Why? What's up with that? Why? What did they do to you? Because you fought war with the Japanese, you fought a war with the Germans, you fought a war with England, and yet everything is hunky-dory with them. But with the Southern boys, with the Confederate boys, what's wrong with it? Say what about slavery? You don't kill it and taste it. Don't you try that. Don't tell me it was about slavery. And that's the other thing I think that is insulting. They always raise the issue that it was about slavery, and all black folk ought to be insulted about that. Black folk ought to be the one. So we're there defending black folk. Hell, don't defend me. Don't defend black folk. They say we're defending the black man against how awful slavery. Talk about Fort Bragg, right? My daddy worked at Fort Bragg. My mama did too. It's how awful it is for young troops to have to go to a fort that's been named after Braxton Bragg, who was a Confederate general. Now, they're not saying they're supporting. Notice that the arguments that they're making about removal of these confederacies and all of this is not about uniting America. It's not about racial harmony. It's about we're trying to defend the black man. It's somehow that we're into the little children, and all you white folk got to come run to help black folk all the time. What the hell? What? It's an insult. It's an insult. You know, I lived around Fort Bragg. That's right. And several of my uncles served at Fort Bragg. But you know what? The other thing I think is very important that we have to watch out for, and this is where this thing is getting all this juice from. So you can't fly the Confederate flag, right? Old Dixie. The night they drove Old Dixie down. Find that, Mr. Engineer. Don't play it now, but find it. And the same one we played before. But you know, I can tell you this, my friend. Now, I'm against Donald Trump. Everybody knows that. I mean, he lied to me. Plus, he lies all the time. I'm against Donald Trump. I am. No, I'm against him. No, I'm against him. But I'm going to tell you something. I'll tell y'all right now. If Joe Biden, my time, Biden becomes president, they're going to be flying a LGBTQ flag on the White House. I can tell you that right now. I guarantee, I bet my seat in heaven on the fact that they will be flying that LGBT flag on the White House. That Joe Biden boy, first of all, he's senile. And the man, I don't know if he remembers his name, his address. Joe Biden looks, he's so confused, he looks like he doesn't even know where his bathrooms are in his own house. What an embarrassment to the Democrat Party. But this LGBTQ crowd is now hooked up with Black Lives Matter. And the reason being is because Black Lives Matter, well, the founders of Black Lives Matter are all trannies, transvestites. I mean, they've had a surgical procedure to go sexually a different way than God intended or God commanded. Trannies is what they're called. And they've hooked up now with the Black Lives Matter, and they've hooked up with the LGBT crowd, have hooked up with the, and this matter is going to make you so sick that you're going to be standing up and praying, "Come, Jesus, come." Republicans, Democrats alike will be, Jesus, maybe Democrats, because these people, Democrats are a bunch of the freakiest people I've ever seen in my life. Republicans are freaky too, but they keep it in the closet, which very well may be where it should stay. But both of these, Black Lives Matter and the LGBT, are born in an abomination. They're both an abomination. But when they say abomination, that means it's above a sin. A sin is a sin, you can deal with that. You know, the Catholics have a cardinal and a venal sin, but when the Bible says an abomination, that means it's worse than a sin. And you don't get a chance to repent for it. And so I think that it's important that we recognize that our nation, while shedding the Confederacy, is now embracing the LGBT and Black Lives Matter flag. Let me tell you something. I was offended when that Muriel Bowser, who is now the mayor of Washington, D.C., when she painted on the streets of Washington, D.C., Black Lives Matter, without consent of the city council, without consent of people in authority. She, just as a black woman, and probably a freaky one too, said paint Black lives. It's wrong. It's just a violent organization. Why don't you paint on another street the Black Panthers or the Black Nation of Islam? Why not that? No, it was wrong. But they're getting away with it. Except me. I'm lifting up my voice against it. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. I'll be right back.
The bond between a mother elephant and her calf is one of the closest of any mammal on Earth. Calves rely completely on their mothers as they learn to survive in the wild. But threats, such as ivory poaching, leave many young elephants orphaned and facing an uncertain future. But WWF is working to protect elephants from meeting this tragic fate, and we need your help. You can support WWF's efforts to protect elephants and other species and habitats around the world. For just $8 a month, you can symbolically adopt an elephant and receive this gift as our way of saying thank you. Call us or visit mywwf.org today. We need your help. Please, act now.
We've come to announce the tribulation, the massive killing machine of the unrepentant, the massive killing machine that God will use. War, rumors of war, earthquakes in diverse places, famines and pestilence. You know, when God killed off that crowd during the days of Noah, the preacher of righteousness, the Bible says, when God killed off that crowd, he only used a flood. But this is a massive killing machine in this modern day. God has put to work the earthquakes, the rock, the rats, the famine, all of which will pursue you and hunt you down until you are dead. And what will be left will be the elect. All right, this segment that I have aptly titled for reference purposes going forward is the Oreo cities of the USA, of America. And by Oreo, I mean black on the outside, but white to the core on the inside. And that is the inside that determines the direction. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Because if you look now at the major cities, and not only major population cities, but also the major political cities of America, they're all headed now by a Hamite person, whether a Hamite man or woman. Starting with Washington, D.C. and Muriel Bowser. It's not a major city, but it's important. Baltimore, just north of that by 40 miles, the black Hamite person. And then, of course, in Atlanta, Georgia, you've got a Hamite woman. That's a major the headquarters. That's the capital of the South, Atlanta. And then you move west over to Houston, and you've got a black mayor there. And then move west and north up to Dallas, you've also got a black mayor. And move further west all the way to the coast up in San Francisco north, you got a black mayor there. You know, and of course you go in Richmond, you've got a black mayor. Montgomery, Birmingham, you've got black mayors there. And you're up in St. Paul, Minnesota, you got a black mayor. And in Minneapolis, Minnesota, home of George Floyd, you got a black police chief. See, all of this blackness on the outside has only increased whiteness on the inside. Can I run a theory past you? Let's say, for instance, that all of these cities were now led by Japheth or Shemite men or women. Then there would be no argument about who they are and what they represent. But the fact that they're represented by Hamites gives a false sense of security to the Hamite people that somehow or another they have arrived. Case in point, you know, America allowed Barack Hussein Obama. Now, he was not black, but everybody said he was. So, you know, we'll let that argument stand for this purpose. But if you look at the data, and you can do this honestly on your own, if you look at the data of the standing of the black man in America, as wretched and awful and rap-oriented as it was, as food stamp dependent as it was, as ghetto-minded as it was, from 2000 to 2007, or since Bill Clinton, to 2007, and the stability of that, home ownership, college graduates, mortality rates, and then looking from 2008 to 2016, the years that Obama reigned, and you'll notice an increase, a great decline in the life expectancy of the black man, a great decline in college degree graduations, a great decline in home ownership, a great decline in family structure, a great decline in upward mobility. Obama brought with him a decline, not an upswing. Check it out yourself. Prove me wrong. Check it. Obama brought a decrease, not as bad. And things were bad in 2000. They were from 1992 to 2000, Bill Clinton's reign. You know, things were what they were. They weren't great by any stretch of the imagination. And under George Bush, they weren't great, but they got worse under Obama. Check out the number of police shootings under Obama as opposed to George Bush, a Republican, Texan. Now go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Check out the police shootings. Check out the number of food stamp recipients. Check out the unemployment rate. Go ahead and do it. Check out the imprisonment. Check out the murders under Obama in Chicago as opposed to the rest of the world. Under Obama, the black on black murders in Chicago succeeded the deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan. Come on now. That's right. So they're nothing but Oreos, these black mayors. You would be better off if the mayor of Atlanta right now was white. Probably Rayshard Brooks would probably be alive. That's right. No. Used to Pastor Manny, we hate you, No, you don't hate me. You just hate the truth I tell. I'm telling the truth. These black folk, they're nothing but Oreos. And by the way, they're black on the outside, but they're white as they can possibly be on the inside. And they'll do anything that they possibly can. They'll do anything that they possibly can to keep those jobs as mayors and politicians. And then they want to move on up into the Congress and you become president and all that other kind of stuff, but they ain't doing nothing for black folk. The more black folk we get elected, the more black folk go to jail. The more black folk we get elected, the more black folk get shot down by the police. The more black folk get elected to office, the more the poor black folk get. And that's the truth. Just how it is, because black leadership is the most wretched form of leadership you're going to find anywhere under this present mandate. Under this present mandate, it's the worst you're going to find anywhere on the planet. And we'd be better off if we had George Wallace running Atlanta, Georgia. So I think that what I'd like to say to you is that you need to ignore all of these black mayors. Whatever they say, ignore it. Go the other way, because they ain't for you. I left out Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. And who is she? She looks like a show enough butch if I ever seen one. And if she ain't, I apologize for that if she's not. But, I mean, whatever they say, they don't mean. Whatever they say, somebody wrote it. They don't mean it. They don't have they're Oreos. They're Oreos. Whatever they say, they don't mean it. And they can't speak on behalf. They can't speak truth to power. They ain't going to do that. So whatever they say, ignore it. But I have something else I want to say as well. You need to completely ignore all these people from the colleges and universities that they bring on from Princeton, or they bring from UCLA, they bring from Stanford, or they get from Harvard or from Duke, and here's a black person, and they bring them up and they put them on television, on the news, and they gonna do some pontification about racism or the LGBT or Black Lives Matter or the black president or whatever it is that they want to talk about, the police shooting, police brutality. They get them up, they bring it, and they go to these universities because they think because if he's a black man, he's at Harvard, he must be, or Princeton or Yale, or he must be somebody, right? So he must know what he must know how to lead black folk. They figure because you are academically inclined, you're also inclined to be able to inspire and lead black folk. It is the most racist thing I've seen white people do in the media. It is the most racist thing white people have ever done by thinking that because some idiot goes to as a professor at Princeton teaching black studies, that he knows something about leading black people. Listen, I may know something about calculus, but it don't make me no rocket scientist. So everything, when you see them, ignore them. Don't believe a thing they say. They don't know what they're talking about. Listen, they're not going to go down. And I keep telling the media, y'all need to talk to the Israelites. Listen. The Israelites are wrong. They got the wrong theological idea. But the reason why they need to be talked to is because they're on the street. I think the media needs to call up the Israelites that are coming in. What do y'all think about this police brutality? And you're going to get some truth from them. Now, you don't ask them about their religious ideas because they're all messed up. Now, they're sincere in their religious ideas, but they're wrong. But ask them about, they're on the street every day. They're on the street every week. They're on street corners. They live in the hood. They sleep next to the suffering people. These people up there in Princeton and Harvard, the Cornell West of this generation, they don't know nothing about suffering anymore. They've been so far removed from it that it ain't even funny. And I think you ought to get David Duke. I think that, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, ought to have the journalistic integrity to bring David Duke on and say, well, he is a racist, and he's a this and a that, and one thing. Listen, Al Sharpton is a bigger racist than David Duke has ever been. He's just more refined. And the other thing is that y'all have a sense of guilt, and you let Al Sharpton's racism flow like a river because you feel guilty. You feel that because the black folk have been treated bad so long that they have a right to vent. They have a right to have a racist like Al Sharpton as their point man. But when it comes to David Duke, you think that there's white privilege and white people have always had power. And so therefore, you're going to keep David Duke. But it's if you're going to call either one racist, Al Sharpton is 10 times the racist of David Duke. And you ought to, in CNN will do themselves a great favor if they call David Duke and say, well, I didn't say you have to agree with what he said. I didn't say that. I think you need to hear him. He represents thousands of people. You need to hear him. He not only represents thousands of people, but he represents a sentiment that is sweeping across America. You ought to hear him. I mean, you ought to bring everybody to the table. You can't bring all the people to the table that think like you. Sometimes I look at MSNBC and everybody sitting there at the table, whether it's this Liz Gunderson or Van Jones or whoever the hell it is, CNN, they're all saying the same. There's nobody with an opposing view. That's not a democracy. That's not even good journalism to not to get an opposing view. Listen, the Israelites and David Duke can give you an opposing view. Give you something to think about. You don't have to agree with it. But it is absolutely a slap in the face of any thinking person to watch MSNBC or Fox News or CNN or any of the rest of them, or Washington Post or New York Times or any of them, because they never bring anybody with a view that they disagree with. It's always the same old bunch of chickens hatching the same eggs. And the problems continue to increase. You got to be objective. David Duke, the Israelites, and some other people, the Rastas, need to bring them in. That's right. You need to hear from them and see what it is. So I would say to you that you ought to completely ignore all these so-called college professors trying to tell you how to lead your life. Listen, they get paid to keep you sterilized. They get paid. Listen, let me tell you something. Eddie Glaude, Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Liz Gunderson, all these people, they are the new Tuskegee sterilization people. Their one job is to insulate the white man from the wrath of the black man. And now Al Sharpton has become that as well. Their job is to insulate the white man from the wrath of the black man. Because, you know, I don't know if some of y'all will admit it. Remember years ago, no matter who it was, if you saw a black man on television, you stopped everything. You know, mama stopped feeding the baby. There's a black man. Sammy Day with you, there's a black man on television. Flip Wilson, black man on television. Remember? It ain't going away. Still, if you see a black man, you stop. You see him on television news, you stop. Black man on television. Well, they're bringing these black faces, these black Oreos like Cornel West and Eddie Glaude and Al Sharpton and Liz Gunderson and that Crump boy and all the rest of them. They're bringing these black Oreos on television to insulate themselves from you. You're pacified. Oh, they bring a black man, so they get a black perspective. These people don't know nothing about being black. They don't know a thing about it. And you need to understand that. And that's why the problems are getting worse. You would have thought with 8 years and Obama had the hammer of the White House that the world for the black people would be paradise by now. It got worse. Come on now. Come on. Don't you sit there and tell me he did something for you. The only people benefiting from Obama are the LGBT crowd. They can now marry man to man and woman to woman. After that, he ain't done nothing. He's a has-been. The biggest disappointment in political analysis, the biggest disappointment in presidential history. So I think that you need to be aware of that. They're just insulation. They bring them on just to protect themselves, to keep y'all from storming CNN. That's why they bring all these black folks, because y'all stop when y'all see that. Now, I'm going to wrap this up, but I got to tell you something. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is worse than the Nazi Party. You know, when the Nazi Party got started in Germany, everybody thought it was a nice idea. Oh, the reconstruction of the economy of Germany, the restoration of the German ideal since World War II, and our signing of that treaty in Alsace-Lorraine. the reinvigoration of the German people as a great and a noble Aryan race, the Nazi Party. Nobody at the time was thinking about it going to kill the Jews. That's what they're going to do. That a leader would rise and put Jews in the oven and start a world war that would kill 100 million people. Nobody thought about it at that time. The Nazi Party was once a proud and a respected name. It was an offshoot of the German parliamentary procedure, but it was once a respected name, the Nazi Party. It wasn't until Hitler made it a killing machine that it became a demarcation of degradation and absolute hatred. So Black Lives Matter, right? Here y'all go. Here y'all go. Black Lives Matter. No, the hell they don't. Trust me, I've been black all my life. I live black. Black lives don't matter to black people. I can tell you that right now. If Black Lives Matter, Chicago would be a heaven. Chicago, they would have been in Chicago, and the 4,000 people that lost their lives on black crime in Chicago between 2008 and 2016, 4,000 black people were killed by black on black crime. Not that much. That's just 1 year. Black on black crime. And no Black Lives Matter marching. 4,000. There are more people killed in Chicago during the Obama administration than killed in Iraq or Afghanistan. Black lives don't mean a damn matter, don't mean it's a lie. One of the biggest lies told, and by the way, it has the potential now that it's hooked up with LGBT trannies to become a monster, now supported by the liberal media. Because 99.999% of the people in liberal media and even Fox News are LGBT leaning or actually LGBT card carriers in media. If there's one place you can find people that are switch hitters and abominable practice, go to the media. Every last one of them, everywhere you shake a stick, you're shaking a stick. And every newspaper, every reporter, every TV camera, every last one of them, everywhere you shake a stick, you're shaking a stick at an LGBT person. And now the media is now promoting, gave them over $1 billion worth of free advertising over the last couple of weeks. Imagine that. But you know, Black Lives Matter don't march against Planned Parenthood, where black women kill black babies to the tune of thousands per year. They've not held one march against Planned Parenthood. So black lives don't matter when a black mama is killing her baby. You say, well, abortion is legal. It's still killing the baby. The baby was alive. But that don't matter, right? That don't matter. No, that don't matter. Now, they don't march against Planned Parenthood, and they don't march against black on black crime. Now, Black Lives Matter don't march against rap music that degrades the black woman, that calls her the lowest names on the planet, degrades her very essence. It don't matter then when a black woman is degraded and people make millions of dollars off of talking about the black mothers of our communities and of our children and rap music, right? Don't matter then. No, black lives don't matter then. No, it doesn't. And the other thing I think is very important that we understand is that all of this is a part of the tribulation, and that's one of the reasons why it is so pervasive and so powerful. And I got news for you. It will not be stopped. At least Nazism was stopped in World War II. Remnants of it, neo-Nazis still today roam the earth. The disappointing news about these Oreo politicians, these Keisha Lance Bottoms, these Muriel Bowsers, these mayors, Lori Lightfoot, the disappointing news about these Oreos of Cornel West and Eddie Glott and Al Sharpton, the Obamas, these Oreo, and Obama was a true Oreo. I swear if there was ever an Oreo, that boy was an Oreo. Black on the outside, if you will, but white on the inside. Is that these are events of the tribulation. And as a result of that, they will not be stymied nor stopped. They will only increase. and they will seek to kill and persecute people like me. I'm going to ask you, don't let these people do that to me. Now, you can only do so much, and all I ask you to do right now is just pray for me. I'm up here in Harlem. Do you know what it takes to live here in Harlem after preaching like I preach and saying the truth, speaking the truth? Go back to my segment on the Confederate flag, the truth I told there as well. Don't let these people, they're using the courts, they're using the education institution, they're using the churches, and everybody they can get, from little children to old men and women, to try to shut me down. Pray for me, would you? Don't let them do it. My voice needs to be heard. My voice of righteousness needs to be heard. And these people ought not to be able to plant a LGBT flag on our church building, on our courtyard, on our property. Do you understand that? You don't have to agree with me about everything I say. But if you did, it'd make you a very wise person. But the one thing you should agree with me, is that I should not be overrun. I should be fully supported by people who know I speak the truth and who love the truth and nothing but the truth. I should be supported by you. I should be prayed for by you. I should be supported in every potential and possible way that you can help me continue. And I've been standing strong. I just didn't come here yesterday. I've been standing strong and standing tall for years. And even some of you that are staunch Trump supporters, come on now, talk to me. You know the things I've said about him are true. You just feel that you don't have any alternative. But you should not support me and support the truth I speak. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can. No, you can. Think of what the world would be like if my voice here in Harlem is still. Think of the amount of suffering, and even you, remember the speed limits, the life you save may be your own. The very statements that I make, and the fact that while there are literally millions of people in the media, millions of people in the universities, millions of people in the Democrat and the Liberal Party, millions of people in the LGBT group, millions of people in the Black Lives Matter, millions of followers of Al Sharpton that want to kill me, that want to stop me. But God has allowed me to continue to stand, and He will if you'll continue to help me, if you'll help me. Pray with me. Pray for me. Pray for me. You know Trump. You know who he is. And you know why you support him. But me, you know it's truth. And I've been standing. I've been standing for Jesus. I've been standing for the Lord. All these church people, all of them, I've told the truth on them. Don't let these people run me out of Harlem. Don't let them harm me. Pray for me. Surround me. Keep my voice loud and strong, beaming up out of Harlem, New York City, that God's changed the name to ATLAH, and you may save your own life. It very well may be to protect you. My voice is strong enough, incredible enough, when I talked about the fact that the Dixie flag ought to fly. That's right. So don't let them destroy me. And those of you who, there's a woman in England, her name is Susan Christian. And I've called her name quite a bit. I've stopped calling these people's name on the air all the time. So, Pastor, why you call these people's name? I'm not going to call Susan anymore Susan, but listen. Susan wrote to me some time ago, and Sister Susan Christian, she said, I used to listen to you, and I used to dislike you. She said, Susan Christian said, I used to dislike I listened to you, but I didn't like what you said. But then she said, I let down and I just started knowing the truth that you were speaking. And now she's become one of our strongest supporters, Susan Christian. And others, there are a lot of people who at first draft find I'm not lying. They just don't like the fact that I'm saying it. And the others, the millions of voices saying just the opposite, but they know I'm speaking the truth. You may be one of them. Don't let them run over me. Don't let them run me out of town. Support me. pray with me, pray for me. And there'll be a whole lot of folk. They had a Jewish man sitting on our YouTube last night trying to tear down everything I was saying about the advent of Levi. There are people that are trolls. There are people with smears, with lies. Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it, Eric Miller. Don't let them do it. Stay with me. Pray for me. I'm James Everett Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. Peace out.
Let's get close to the Lord.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the Current Events class, or should I say the very special Father's Day edition of the Current Events class, because today I have some of our fathers of some of our students from Great Tomorrow's Elementary, Middle, and ATLAH High School. And I want to introduce them to you before we start our discussion. We have Elder LaFleur, who is the superintendent of Great Tomorrow's Elementary, Middle, and ATLAH High School. We have El Capitan Abraham Farr, who is also a father he is actually the father of the $160,000 man, Jeremiah Farr, but he also has another son in our school. We have Mohamed Traore, who has a son in our school. And we have El Capitan Isaiah LaFleur, who also has children in our school. Welcome, fathers. Welcome, all of you. How are you all doing today?
Doing good.
Okay, good. So we're going to celebrate Father's Day this weekend, on Sunday to be exact, as Father's Day. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have some of our fathers from the students of our school on the broadcast today. We have other fathers as well, but they were not able to make it. So let me just say in advance, thank you for taking the time to do this with me. You all are very busy. You all are working on a daily basis. So I appreciate you taking the time out to do today's Current Events class. But I want to get started with this. All of you have students or children who are in our school system, from elementary to middle school. And again, Captain Farr, your son graduated from our high school. So I want to ask you individually, how has the school affected your children? What changes have you seen in your children as a result of being in our school system or going through our school system and so forth? And Mr. Traore, I want to start with you. You are the father of Brahima Traore, who is in the 5th grade, getting ready to graduate, going to middle school. And I want to ask you, how has the school affected Brahima? What changes have you seen in him?
Thank you for asking. I don't know, where to start. Brahima has made a lot of change through the system education ATLAH, because 2 years ago, before Brahima get into the school, great elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of desperate because I don't know what to do. I was stuck. So when he get into the school 2 years ago, now he's in 5th grade,
Mm-hmm.
5th grade. So I see a lot of changes, positive change. Because before, the boy didn't have any desire to go to school because he was bullying, so many problems. And sometimes I go late to work because of the problem going on in the school. But since Brahima started school at Great Elementary School, all this has gone, and I have a free mind. Brahima has made a lot of progress, improved a lot. So I see him like a leader now. So he's building a great leadership in the school. Behavior has improved a lot. I couldn't believe that could happen because 2 years ago, no, if somebody told me that your son will change, I couldn't believe it because the way he was bullying and the way he was behaving was so bad. But the school helped us to improve his behavior. So academically, he was kind of behind because supposed to start fourth grade from ATLAH school, first grade level. School has improved him to bring him to catch with everything all the way down to fourth grade, and now he's doing great. Everything is great. So I would like to thanks very much for your help, the teachers, the staff. So I thank you very much because without you, I was desperate. So I don't know what to do. So
Well,
the school has helped us a lot.
It's certainly a blessing to hear you say that, but the significance that you stated, you see him now as a leader, is quite significant because our school, that's what our school is all about, raising world leaders. And so thank God that you are able to see those changes in Brahima and make such a statement. Captain Farr, as stated earlier, you have a son who has graduated from our high school. So he's been in our school since he was a little bitty boy. And now he's moved on. He's going to his sophomore year in college. How would you state that this school has affected your children?
Well, this school has been great for Jeremiah. He's going to get ready to go into his second year at Adelphi University. With his major, he's going to be a doctor. And the school has done so much. I mean, the fact that it's a private school, so those classes are very small, and that the children, that he's able to have that one-on-one personal attention. The teachers take time out to work with him, even after school, before school, to make sure that he gets to work right, to make sure that he understands everything. Without the school, there was no way that he would be able to, get a scholarship at Adelphi University.
Right.
It would be no way that he would have been able to do that. So, we owe the school a lot, and thank God for Pastor Manny for starting the school. Thank all the teachers for working with him, and Elder LaFleur here being the leader and the superintendent. It's been a blessing. All of y'all, everyone has had a part in that, in allowing him to be able to go to college and to have a scholarship in college. He's advanced, further than most males in my family coming up. I wish I had a school like this. I wish I had a pastor in the ministry like this when I was coming up to push me and to spend that much time with me. But it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and I'm truly grateful and truly thankful for it.
Well, praise God. Captain LaFleur, you have 4 children in our school, El Capitan LaFleur. What do you have to add to this?
Well, thank you for having me coming on as being one of the parents for the students that are in this great school. I have 4 children, and I see that they are improving a lot in their studies. And I thank God and also school and under the leadership of Pastor that they're able to teach our children godly, moral principles. Not only are they getting the academics that they need to get them to college, but also they're able to be taught the Bible and nurtured through what is morally right and what is how we should live according to God's word. And I think it's a blessing to be able to have that because, you do need, the Lord. And I think that's what's lacking in a lot of schools, that spiritual guidance that is so much needed. But I thank God that we have that here in a strong way with under the leadership of Superintendent LaFleur and Pastor and the teachers. And I'm really blessed to be able to have that that anchor.
Praise God. Now I want to go to Elder Superintendent Lafleur, who also happens to be my husband for all of you watching out there. As a superintendent of the school, also having children in the school, and your experiences throughout the years of watching and teaching students, how would you say you've seen the effects of the school, or not just your children, but children as a whole, out of all the students that you've taught?
Well, I can say it's been like a miracle for almost every child that has come into this ministry and school. I can't take credit for anything. It's been the Lord. It's I've been obedient to what the Word of God says. Our motto is all excellence all the time. Mm-hmm. And as we are teaching the students, especially my children and everybody else's children, we are like a family. And the pastor puts a lot of emphasis on us having knowledge, us not going out there and just playing sports and things like that, but going out there to be leaders in the world, to go out there and build businesses, become great. So as I have been working in this ministry, I've been here for about 17 years, and it's just been a blessing for me. I can't really take credit for it because, as you know, that when I first started teaching, I was a novice, and I just followed what the Lord said, and then the Lord blessed my hands. And I just put my whole heart into making sure that the students need to get what they need.
Right.
And that's it.
Well, praise God for that. It truly is a blessing to have you all share with me today. I want to ask you all this question. I want to turn the corner for a second and ask you all, as men, as fathers, as Hamite men, to those who don't understand Black men, raising children in this day and age, with everything that's going on in the world, we're dealing with the coronavirus, we're dealing with all of the protests that you all see. As men who are raising, all of you have sons, but not just sons, you raising children in general. How has it been for you in raising children in this day and age that we are living in? Mr. Traore, how has it been for you?
It's kind of tough because the coronavirus is here, so people they start inside for a while. The job also is less job. So and also when we leave the kids with today life where they have access to multiple media like Facebook or YouTube. Mm-hmm. Sometimes even games, so they get so much addicted, so you have to be on top of them, on the kids.
Right, yeah.
Otherwise, it's really, really tough because they get connection with, even though they are getting good education from school, mm-hmm. Being that they have their devices where they can get connected to other people, strangers from outside, so make it a little bit difficult because you have to really keep your eyes on them 24 hours.
Yeah, certainly so. And Captain Farr, how's it been for you?
Well, kind of bouncing off what Brother Traore said, it has been kind of difficult, especially with social media, as far as the things that they can see on social media now. They have access to pretty much everything in the world. I mean, when I was their age, the internet was kind of just starting, so it was, it wasn't as advanced as it is now. So, I mean, there were things that you were exposed to, but, it wasn't instant, nowadays a lot of children, they don't care. They rather stay in the house all the time. They don't want to go outside. They don't need to go outside. I mean, when I was coming up, we wanted to go outside, ride our bikes, play a game called Skelsy or shoot tops, is whatever they call it. now, but a lot of these kids, you tell them that now, they don't know what you're talking about. It's been very difficult. And also with this LGBTQ thing, it's like I think one time I was watching something with Shadrach on TV. It's either Jeopardy or something a regular show to Jeopardy. You know, it's a learning show where they can learn history and things. But they have a commercial that comes on with two gay men or something kissing, or LGBT couples, and they show this on TV all times of the day now, and it's like.
Right.
It's crazy. It's like I got to tell them to turn away. I got to tell them to turn the TV off. It's very difficult because they're making this part of the normal now. They're making it the norm, and we have to constantly push against that. Tell them no. Let them know that it's wrong. It's wrong and it's wrong. That's why I thank God for Pastor to keep preaching against this. So they can. Anytime they hear Pastor preaching, they can hear him preaching that it's wrong, it's against God's word, it's against the Bible, because everybody around them in all of the world is condoning it. So it's difficult, just to say the least.
And Captain LaFleur, as the youngest father here amongst all of the fathers, how would you say it's been raising your children in this day and age?
Well, I agree with Brother Traore and El Captain Farr. The mostly trying to protect them from what's on the internet, what they see on social media, being maybe drawn to want to join social media, mainly for my eldest daughters. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know, nowadays it's like you can be watching a children's programming and sometimes they'll slip in some LGBT message, and you have to quickly try to, stop the TV, shut down TV, turn everybody's eyes away, and that's one of the things in this day and age, in the year 2020, that I find difficult having to deal with as a father.
Right.
Growing up, I didn't have to worry about all that stuff. Everybody knew that was wrong. Everybody condemned it. And it was pretty much, it wasn't highlighted as something that everyone should do, openly.
Yeah.
And so, having all these things on television and on the internet is one of the biggest things I see as a parent, to try to, let them know that that's wrong. That's why also it's good that they have that balance, that they know, with the help of the school and with the help of Pastor Manning, mm-hmm. that they're able to be taught, what is right and what is wrong, biblically.
Right.
And we just continue to teach our children, and just pray for them,
Yeah. Elder LaFleur, you've seen so many children come through the school throughout the years. How has it been raising children for you in the day and age in which we live?
Well, what I can say is that I find myself talking about things to 5-year-olds that, you should really talk to them about when they're like, 15, 16, 17. They'll see things on the TV, or things will pop up on the computer, or ads. They could be and they attack the children harshly. Right. They could be on a site of just watching movies, and then something pops up or ad pops up. So we have to be very protective and guarding, because the information is out there. It's right on their fingertips. And I find myself having a lot of conversations that I didn't think I would have to have with a 5-year-old, just to see something. We can walk, my youngest is 7, and we could be walking down a street, and then she'll see on a bus 2 men kissing or something like that. Oh, and I'll have to explain that to her, explain how the world is trying to promote that and trying to basically brainwash the children because they start at like a very, very young age.
Yeah.
You know, I can have two mommies or I can have two daddies. And it's very disheartening for them to, you know, bring this up to children of such a young age. You know, they shouldn't be talking about sex at that young age.
Yeah, certainly.
You know, something that is protected.
Well, you know, one of the things that we are taught is that we know is how important fathers are. Having fathers in the home. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, this is a Father's Day special edition. Father's Day is not celebrated as widely as Mother's Day is, right? And we know that to be true, but fathers are extremely important in the home. And so as fathers raising children in this day and age, how important is it for you as fathers to keep your children well grounded? Do you find it, and all of you just mentioned how difficult it is, you see all of these things going on in the world and so forth. Has that been a challenge for you as a father in raising your children? Mr. Traore, has that been a challenge for you?
You know, raising children it's something that it have a start day, but it doesn't have any end day. Because this is something that you have to be on top until they become a good grown up. Right? So because as a father, so you cannot be happy whether you are billionaires or millionaires, or you are you are well educated. You're not gonna be succeed in your life if you fail on education in your children.
Right.
So it's not an amount of days or time.
Yeah.
You have to do your best until they get grown up and they get the right direction and they can run things by that way.
Now, Mr. Traore, you teach, you are a professor in a school, right? So you teach students. Do you see the foundation in the students that you teach and the young people that you teach, or are they just all over the place? Do you see the discipline in the young people that you teach?
Because I'm teaching at college level.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach mathematics. Usually I teach advanced mathematics. Those kids who are studying for engineering. So most of the time, those kids are well disciplined.
Okay.
You can't be good in math, but the discipline is there because they feel that they're working already, so they manage. But for you to have like a sense that you want to do engineering,
yeah,
that means that you already have to have a kind of background before you get into college.
Yes.
Yeah.
This way, most of those kids they are disciplined. The few people who like behave that they don't care much, most of the time is because of the job. So probably they don't do the homework on time, or they do the assignments, so because just the job they did so work.
Right. Yeah.
So them are disciplined. So.
Okay. All right. That's great. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I wish we had more time to speak to you all. I want to say to you all, Happy Father's Day in advance. I thank God for all of you. I did not mention, but El Capitan Farr and El Capitan Lafleur are actually part of the media team. They are actually part of the team that works to get the word out to you, working with Pastor Manning on a daily basis for the Trust in the Lord, the media, the Manning Report, the Pulpit of Hour, the prayers that we have every Wednesday. These are the two men, along with some other members of the media team who work to get that out to you on a daily basis. So we want to say thank you to the both of you again for taking the time out. I'm sure you have some videos to work on, so thank you for taking taking the time to share with me today. It's really been a blessing. We will do this again at some point because, again, fathers are extremely important. And the prophecy of ATLAH is all about 50,000 righteous men and children having fathers in their homes. And you all are great examples of fathers in their homes taking care of their children, especially within the Hamite community, which we see there's such a lack of that in the Hamite community. So thank you again for sharing with me today. I'm going to let you all get back to your work. I really appreciate it. And again, happy Father's Day to you all, and happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there who are taking care of their children. Thank you. Everyone stay tuned. I'm going to be talking to some of our middle school students next, and you don't want to miss that. So thank you again, everyone. Peace.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
I love the school. At the beginning, I had Zarek only, and it was hell for me to find a peaceful, productive, a good school. Mm-hmm. After Miss Grisby is a lady that does the after-school program, she told me several times to go to the school. And finally, I went, and it's been a complete difference for Zarek because he experienced different schools. Mm-hmm. And the kids, the little ones, they were so used to go to pick up Zarek that everybody knew them before they were enrolled. So the school has been like a second family, like a family for the kids and for me, and they feel safe there.
I am a child of the King. I pledge to not be racist against any ethnicity. It doesn't matter what color you are. All that matters is that we are one nation and one for all. We stand for righteousness. When the world comes together as one, we will be the masterpiece that represents the glory of God. Let us all stand together until we die with righteousness and not wickedness. Amen. I am a child of the King, his servant at all times. I am strong. I am blessed. I am special because of the Lord. I am chosen by God, a member of his royal family. I will succeed in all my studies because the Lord is with me. Amen.
You guys know I love you, but let me tell you, it's been like a 360 because not only they've been in charter schools, we moved to North Carolina for a year, so they had to experience a whole different state. And when I came back, I put them back into the same charter school they were in just because it was easy and they had their information. But I was looking for a summer camp for them, and I found out through a parent that you guys had summer camp. So I've passed by a million times, but I had no idea you guys had the summer camp. And once they were enrolled in summer camp and I found out about the school, it was like easy peasy because the kids had such a great time. They always spoke so highly of everyone there. And they can't stop talking about all the good food that I could never have time to eat. But they're always talking about how, like, it's just like they felt it was an immediate, like, and immediately I knew that it was the right choice because their reactions, they had never said that about another school, you know. Wow. like other students, they've been in other, you know, charter schools and this, and you try to look at, you know, all the reviews and you try as a parent to make sure that they're happy. Obviously, that's our number one. So once they in summer camp, they were already ecstatic. I already knew it was going to be the right fit, and I am unbelievably grateful because I feel like I'm just like, I lost my mom 2 years ago, and she was like not only, she was the only person I trusted with my kids, but now I feel like the school is my, like they said, is my second family. Like, I know when I drop them off that I don't have to worry about it at all.
Well, they love it. They love going there. They don't have a problem. And coming from, like I said, I used to homeschool them. I actually gave them options. I said, do you want to go back to public school? Do you want to? And ATLAH came up, and I said, do you want to give the school a try? They actually picked the school.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
They picked it. So, and then I said, okay, let's go. And I checked it on, and I put them in, and I haven't had any problems. They feel safe. They get along with everyone. They learn at their own pace, which is great. They're not, pushed to key, if they, for instance, I know my sons, one of them has trouble with math. He doesn't pick algebra up as quick. So they work with him, they work with him at his pace. So he feels confident now. And that's something that I felt that got torn down when they were in, originally in public school. That confidence that they're just because they need a little more time to learn a subject doesn't mean that they're dumb.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So definitely putting them in ATLAH has built their confidence.
Welcome, everyone. I am Sabbath Rachel LaFleur, and in this week's edition of the Current Events class, I have some of our students, as I have just interviewed some of the fathers for the special Father's Day segment of the Current Events class. Today, I have our middle school students. Some of them could not make it today, but I have those who you see seated here, and I want to introduce them to you today. We have Amir Cabre, who is a 6th grader. We have Zamir Ward, who is a 7th grader. Genesis Lewis, also a 7th grader. Zipporah LaFleur, a 7th grader. Truth LaFleur, also a 7th grader. Mariah James, a 6th grader. And we have Sheba Abate, who is a 7th grader as well. Welcome, everyone. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good. Now, the reasons as to why I wanted to have all of you here today is to discuss a teaching that Pastor did recently. Actually, he did this teaching last week on the Manning Report titled When Negroes Were Successful. And I wanted to talk to you all about that in light of the conversation that I had last week with the middle school. Zamir, you were here with me last week, and remember we talked about the Hamite communities, and you said that you saw how people were struggling on a day-to-day basis in your communities, and Sheba, you told me the same things in our conversation last week. And then Pastor did this teaching last week, and I thought it was very interesting. And so that's why we're here to discuss that. So, based upon Pastor's teaching in discussing Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey and others, I want to know from you what you thought. In light of everything that we are witnessing today, dealing with the coronavirus, dealing with the murder of George Floyd, and then you know that there was another killing of another Black man. Excuse me, forgive me, I forget his name now. But you know that there's another protest going on because of that as well. So I want to talk about Black communities, and when I say Black, I really mean Hamite, but for everyone else, when we say Hamite, we're talking about those who you call Black or those who call themselves African Americans. We're using Hamite, which is biblical, right? So what did you think about Pastor's teaching in regards to Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey? What did you learn from that teaching that he did? And let's start with Zamir.
I think the teaching that Pastor Manning was talking about was very interesting because he was talking about how the Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey did a lot of things for the Black community and was trying to fight for their rights. And even to this day, we're still trying to fight so we can have equal rights. So I thought that was interesting when he was talking about that.
Now, you told me last week that you see people struggling on a day-to-day basis in a community in which you live. And you live in a basically all Hamite community, correct, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in regards to the times that Pastor was talking about in regards to Black Wall Street, when Hamite people were very successful without all of the things that we're dealing with now today, what do you think? What do you think about the contrast between now and then?
I think that that it's weird to me because I would think back then they would be struggling, going through the times they were being really things going on back then with the racist people. But now, even in 2020, we struggling still to get our rights. So I thought that was interesting how back then they were successful, and nowadays we're not that successful as we used to be.
Okay, all right. Genesis, what did you think watching that teaching?
Something that I did not know, well, I knew it, but I forgot, was that like Marcus Garvey wanted to take us back to Africa so we can all like live together and own our own businesses there. I thought that was interesting that we all had to, well, he thought that we all had to go back to where we came from to start a new life, and we can't start a new life here or where we are now.
Okay. And Amir?
I agree with Zamir. Back then, they were trying to do a lot of things for the Black people. They were trying to help us.
Okay, when you say they, who are you referring to? Amir?
Marcus Garvey.
Okay. You're talking about
Marcus Garvey.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. G2, Sheba, what did you think seeing that teaching?
Pastor Manning was very right about certain things, such as, like Genesis said, having Black people go back to their countries, because if you can't make a living here, then I think you could start off where you're from, like where your family is. Because my family, most of them, like about 75%, live in our country. So,
and your country is where? Tell everyone where your country is. Yes. And so you think, are you saying that you believe that you can be more successful in Ethiopia as your birthplace, or what are you saying exactly?
I mean, you could be successful here, like if you put your mind to it.
Right.
But, you know, like it depends on like if your family's here or like if they're there. you know.
Okay. All right. Mariah, what did you think?
Well, with the teaching of Booker T. Washington, he loved to learn and he wanted to make sure that all the children got a right education, which I think was very extraordinary to see how a Black man actually wanted his own kind to get a rightful education.
Okay. And Truth, what did you think?
I think that what Pastor Man was saying, he was right. But I think that a lot of people are going to say that Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and all of that, they didn't think that, and that they would support us if they were alive today right now.
You're saying that they would support us if they were alive today?
I'm saying that I think people would think that they would support them, like LGBTQ and everything like that.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, if you're making that statement, then you're saying that Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X would not support them. Is that what you're saying? Okay, all right. And Zipporah, what did you think listening to this teaching by Pastor?
I thought, I was thinking, it was that we had that Black people were actually successful and they were actually leaders, and that they were showing us the right way. But now, since they're not here anymore, we are beginning into a lot of trouble, and we don't really have any experience on things.
So let me ask you this question, and I'm going to take this back to Zamir. As you first stated that Hamite people are not really doing anything now the way they did then. We are not at the success as we are then. And that means as communities, right? Communities as a whole. What do you think happened that back then they were very successful, and then yet we don't see that now? Because Marcus Garvey was a leader, right? He was a leader in the Black community. And Booker T. Washington was a leader in the Black community. And we have so-called leaders now. Most of the states have Black people or Hamite people as mayors and so forth. But yet our communities are still not as successful as it was then. What do you think is the difference? What do you think is the difference, Amir?
I think the difference between back then and now is that nowadays people don't really talk about the word of God and listen to it. But I think that more back then people were a lot more open to what the black leaders had to say to lead them. And I think we need a leader that knows the word of God, like Pastor Manning, so he could show us how to be righteous and successful and own our own business.
Amen. I certainly agree with you there. I mean, what do you think?
I think that the reason why people are not like how they were back then is because they don't really think it's affecting them, and they feel like it wasn't as bad as it was 30 years ago.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Mariah, what do you think?
I think it's because back then, since Hamite people had to go through a lot, they were more strong-minded back then. They had like peace of mind and they knew what they were doing. But now, like the Black people today, we don't even know what we're doing.
Okay. And Sheba?
Like, honestly, if I had to say, I mean, people are trying to go back to how it was then, but it's kind of hard now because now that they brought like all this Black Lives Matter into light, I think like more people are just gonna make it more weird for like Black people to like just get like back then where everybody was successful.
Right. Yeah. Zipporah?
I think that I think that the Black people, that we were more successful back then than we are now, and that I think that we could actually do better when we're like now, but as we were back then, because if we just keep trying, then we'll get it, and that we will, and that as we're here, like in quarantine, we should try and be more successful, like start there.
Okay, and when you say be more successful while we're on quarantine, what do you mean exactly?
That we should just like start over from my bad ways, just take that away, and then just start being successful.
Okay, so basically you're saying to just work on yourselves while you're at home, right? For you to grow and develop and work on yourself. Okay, and Truth, what do you think is the difference between then and now?
I think the difference between then and now is because the Black people back then, I think they had more passion in them, and they really believed what they were doing, like they really felt it. But I feel like now people like Al Sharpton, they're not doing anything. They're not really helping. Like they don't, like I feel like they're just doing it sometimes for money or sometimes in what they believe in, but it's not as strong as what the Black people back then were feeling.
Okay. Let me ask you all this question. Do you think that when we're talking about people like Booker T. Washington, who had the Tuskegee Institute, and people like Marcus Garvey, and the community like Rosewood or Black Wall Street, that they looked out for one another more so than they do now? I mean, in a real genuine way, to really look out for your brother because you really love them and you really want to help them in a genuine way, as opposed to now. Do you think that was the case back then as compared to now, Zipporah?
Yes, I think that it was better back then than now, because back then we did like everything we could, and it was better back then. But now it's like a bunch of chaos that's happening.
So Mariah, answer this question for me. What do you want to see happen in the Hamite community? What would you like to see happen in the Hamite community that you don't see right now?
I would like to see people going to work and having food to eat and not smoking outside. And I would like to see people going to church, going to God, having smiles on their faces.
Okay. Amir, what would you like to see that you don't see right now?
I would like fathers to go back into their homes and start taking care of their family and stop the unnecessary killings and murders.
Yes. Genesis?
I would like to see them step up to what they need to do and stop like trying to run away from their problems and own it and do what they have to do to become
okay.
Whoever they want to be.
Sheba?
I just want them to help out their own communities and their family.
Okay. Truth?
I want to see more people being fathers and more people being business workers and working instead of sitting on the curb smoking.
Okay. One of the things Pastor mentioned was the fact that our school and our church building is located a block away from Marcus Garvey Park. So we have a very unique situation as far as where we are located, church and school. And that's not a coincidence that has happened. When we talk about the greatness of Marcus Garvey, and Pastor Manning has stated all of this. And the fact that we are right there, again, is no coincidence. So my final question to you all is, as you've learned about Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, Rosewood, Wall Street, do you think that it's possible for us to get there again and even do greater things? Do you think it's possible, Mariah?
Well, Pastor is a great leader, so I think it is possible.
Okay. Amir?
Yes, I think it's possible.
Okay. Zamir?
I think it's possible if we all get together so it could be peace and listen to Pastor Manning.
Okay. Genesis?
I think it's possible if everyone listens to him and stop trying to like say their own opinion and actually listen to him. I believe it's possible.
Okay. Zipporah?
I think it's possible because that people could listen to Pastor Manning and things that he preaches about, and listen to the Manning Report and the Trust in the Lord Hour. I think that is possible.
Okay. And Sheba?
Yeah, I think it's possible too. Like Zipporah said, if you put your mind to it.
Okay. So it is definitely possible. Not only is it possible, it is going to happen. And so, as all of you stated so eloquently, listening to Pastor Manning, because he is a great leader, Mariah, as you stated, that God has sent us, we can certainly do all of the things that we saw on Black Wall Street and even more, because we are going to do things that the world has never seen before. And so, again, it was important that you watch that teaching, because in the midst of everything that we're seeing today, in the midst of Black Lives Matter, Sheba, as you mentioned, in the midst of all of these protests and so forth and so-called Black leaders, it's important that you understand, as Amir mentioned last week and Sheba mentioned, the struggling of day-to-day lives of Hamite people that they see in their communities, that you understand that we used to be great. And as far as we used to have great communities, we used to own our own businesses, own our own land, own our own homes. And we did not rely on other people to give us what we needed. We did not rely on the government. We did not rely on handouts. We relied on one another as a Hamite community, and we dealt with one another in that respect. So it's important that you know your history in light of everything that is going on now. And so I'm so grateful that you all were able to watch the teaching of Pastor Manning, and as you all have stated, to continue to watch and to listen to everything that he says. So let me ask you all this question before we end today's session. Let me first mention to you all that Pastor Manning has stated that we will most likely be going on the Mohawk Trail as a trip, and also possibly Niagara Falls. Now, I will say in light of that it all depends again on what's going on in the world. As you have seen, the coronavirus is spiking again in many of the states, as many states have opened up early, too early. So we'll see what happens. But as of now, he and Elder LaFleur, they plan to do 2 trips, one to the Mohawk Trail and one to Niagara Falls. And again, we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, continue to wear masks. Don't take your masks off. Continue to wear your gloves, because the coronavirus is still very serious. People are still dying from the coronavirus. All right, so continue to wear your mask, wear your gloves, stay away from crowds, stay away from a whole bunch of people, and keep yourself safe, okay? So again, I thank you all for sharing with me. I say this all the time, I miss you all. Do you all miss school?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's a week. Yes. I think you've been home a little too long where you're starting to not miss school as much. But do you all miss each other? Do you all miss the company of each other? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I tend to think that you all really do miss each other. So we will continue to see what happens as we take it day by day. Again, I thank you all for sharing with me today. And I will be speaking to you all at another time. Peace out.
Peace.
Mr. Trump, I am from Haiti. Mr. Trump, I'm from Haiti. Mr. Trump, I'm from Nigeria. Mr. Trump, I am from Haiti. 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 Mr. Trump, I am from Haiti.
Mr. Trump, I am from Nevis.
And Mr. Trump, we are the Lord's people. And hallelujah, boom shakalaka goes right there.
My mother started liking the school and let me come here every single year. It has been 5 years and now I'm in the 7th grade. I still love this school. It has taught me a lot of things about the world and all around it, and let me see things I've never seen before, like me participating in the history fair last year. I would like to give thanks to all my classmates for making me feel comfortable and at home here. Please, to all the new and old parents in the school, don't take your kids out of this school because it will probably be the biggest mistake you've ever made. No matter what type of child you have, this school will shape it into a world's leader. So do yourselves a favor. Oh my goodness. Okay. So do yourselves a favor and keep your kids here till they graduate, and it will change yours and your child's life. Peace and blessings.
Peace be unto you.
Peace.
This school is under the word of God.
That's right.
And I like this school because it can never be defeated.
Got that right. Are you right about
I
that?
will never leave this school because it is known as the best school in America.
That's right.
Peace.
My name is Zachariah Ahaimi. I'm an 11th grader from ATLAH High School. Today I'll be telling you about my experience going to Niagara Falls. But to let you all know, I have never left the country before, nor have I never been that far from home. So I was excited, but also very nervous at the same time. The trip was very long, but with my fellow classmates with me, it wasn't as nearly as boring as it would have been. When we got to the hotel, it was amazing. It had a great interior design. The hotel itself was amazing, and we had a great view of the falls themselves. We even got to see them change colors. We got to see them to red, to blue, even to a full rainbow. The breakfast there was nice as well, but I still kind of missed the school's breakfast. We got to do a lot of stuff there, and some stuff I haven't done before. We went to Walmart, Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, and we did so much more stuff there too. We got to see the lock bridge, where you'll put a lock on a bridge to represent a couple's love as strong as a lock. And also I want to thank Pastor Manny for letting us stay another day so we could really get the experience of what it was like to be in another country. And I also want to thank Mother Sills for giving Pastor Manny the idea. And now I could really see why she loved to travel so much. It really is such a unique experience. Overall, I really did enjoy my time there, and I can't wait for the next trip. So peace, and thank you, and have a blessed day.
Take me to the water. Take me to the water. Take me to the water to be baptized. Take me to the water. Take me to the water. The mighty, mighty water to be baptized.
It'll make a junkie say Jesus is Lord. I got a word in my mouth. I got a word.